Gentlemen, welcome back to Umineko. We are in the first arc and Mario is, or was, on quite the power trip. Now we're kind of discussing whether or not a 19th person exists and really what we're going to do moving forward now that we've digested this disaster. I'm hoping that our plan involves actually, solving the case aggressively, maybe going along with this perceived person's wishes and, looking for the gold. Something like that seems to make sense, or at least would be. I don't know if it would make sense from the character's perspective, but from the perspective of the story, that's where they want to be. It's like, you gave us this treasure hunt plot hook, now we need to execute on it. If we don't execute on the treasure plot hook, it's just kind of weird, but I mean, this is Higurashi Umineko. This guy does like ignoring plot hooks for several arcs, and then finally executing on a plot hook from the first arc, 3 arcs later. He does that. It's kind of annoying, but at least you know it's going to get executed on if he left it out as a hook. So if we don't see it happen this arc, or it takes a really long time, don't worry, it'll probably be the next arc. Alright, for the time being, I put aside whether a 19th person existed. And we announced our theory that the goal of the culprit might have been to make us solve the riddle of the epitaph. Uncle Hideyoshi seemed to be extremely interested, but Aunt Natsuhi said it was ridiculous and dismissed it. Oh, so that's dismissed immediately. Well, of course it is. Right? So, the goal might have been to make us do that. I don't know why Natsuhi said it's ridiculous. It seems very straightforward. Natsuhi's just... Natsuhi seems obsessed with the idea that it's some psychopathic killer because it makes more sense to her, maybe. We'll see if she gives a less out-of-hand or offhand dismissal. One that's... contains more of an explanation. Let's see. Of course. If you think about it that way, even that letter from yesterday makes sense. The motive seems to fit pretty well with the facts. Setting aside whoever it was that gave Maria-chan the letter. Beatrice exists. Even though she was puffing up her cheeks in that cute way she had been doing since yesterday, I couldn't think of it as cute. If I poked fun at her, it might suddenly transform into a creepy laugh. There's no hidden gold. Oh, that's interesting. Natsuhi is doing the Kraus strategy of lying to everybody for no reason, when she knows for a fact that the gold exists because Kraus has the actual gold. Kraus has at least one of the pieces of the gold. So the gold exists, she's denying it exists, and stopping them from doing it. She's basically operating as an active antagonist to our plot right now. Interesting. Yes, Natsuhi and her daughter are the current head family. If someone else solves it, they get everything instead of them. So there's no advantage for them to solve it unless their lives are on the line if they don't solve it. There's no hidden gold, however, the culprit is blindly sure of its existence. So basically, if she assumes that everyone else would die before her, or if it's some random person who's just killing people until they get the results they want, then maybe that's what you'd want. But then again, if I was like someone who is listening in on this and really wanted people to look for the gold, you gotta realize... Okay. You have to realize if I was someone listening to this conversation, or the person from outside was somehow able to observe what was going on in this room, they'd almost certainly kill you if their intention was to get you to look for the gold, because she's in opposition to that, so they'll just kill people in that order, right? And that doesn't make someone suspicious, because if their intention is to make you look for the gold and someone's directly opposing it, that seems perfectly in line with what they do, right? So I think Natsuhi's not exactly operating in a brilliant manner here, because she's making herself a big fucking target for anyone who wants to anyone who would want to kill her to force the gold search to begin, right? If that's actually their motive, whether or not the gold exists is a completely different story, but if that's their motive to make people look for the gold, then Natsuhi's painted a bigger target on herself, in addition to, carrying the gun and taking charge if they're trying to spread chaos. If you're trying to disrupt people and prevent them from forming a coherent strategy, removing leadership is a pretty effective tool, especially when that leadership is directly opposed to you, and someone else might be a little bit more favorable to the idea of, say, searching for that gold. or wandering off on their own, whereas Natsuhi wants everyone to chill out in this one room and do nothing else. Yeah, however, if the culprit's blindly sure of its
それを
existence,
私たちに解かせて
And
横
they're
領を
trying to make
企んでい
us-
るという動機はなるほどとうなずけるものがあります
and if they're trying to make us solve the riddle before snatching the gold away for themselves, I'll agree it makes sense.
しかしならばなぜ後ろ宮家の主要な人物ばかりを最初に殺したのです
If that were the case, why would they start by killing those most highly ranked in the Ishiromiya family? Why would they? Well, for one, they only killed that one person who's in charge. They killed first, third, and fourth. They didn't kill second. And we don't really have an explanation for why they didn't kill the second most in charge. I see your point. Why would they start with the people at the top? Because they want to disrupt the hierarchy, that's why. It's a pretty straightforward plan. They want to disrupt leadership so people are more likely to take actions they want them to by applying pressure and manipulating people who are more easily led. If they wanted us to solve the riddle, killing those closest to Kinzo doesn't sound like a good plan to me. Why not? Please elaborate, Nanjo. Because I don't think Kraus was at all close to him. That isn't true, though. That is true enough? What do you mean that's true enough? That's completely false. Kraus has never spoken to Kinzo on screen. Neither has Rudolph or Rosa. None of them had spoken to him. Even Ava hasn't either. The fact that Ava's alive seems more like a happy coincidence than anything else. Based on If we're going with that argument, wouldn't it have been quicker to threaten Father in the first place? You'd think it'd be faster to just ask the person who wrote it rather than force us to solve it. You've got a point there. I do have the Hanyu. Still, I think it'd take more than your average threat to make Father spill the beans. Dude, their father's fucking loopy. There's not a chance in hell he'd give anything up. Or he'd just ramble like crazy. There is children that grew up with him if he's not talking to them right now. Yeah, but the point is, like, why kill this person who has a line to him? And you're like, why would they care? Like, the line doesn't exist right now. They might know some stuff about him. But they may not be the people. Their minds might be, like, set in the wrong way. Like, they might be hesitant to resist. Like, I can see why Kraus is dead, right? Like, let's think of it. If you're, like, some omniscient assassin who knows for a fact that Kraus would literally rather die, because listen to Natsu, or Natsumi, right? Or what's her name? Yeah, Natsu. Listen to Natsuhi. She knows for a fact the gold exists, but is lying to everyone about the gold existing. And Kraus would do the same fucking thing because he wants the gold, and they're all fucking greedy, dumb fucks who want everything for themselves but are unwilling to work for it. Have I watched or played Higurashi? Absolutely, my dude. It's up on YouTube. Oh shit, what? What's going on? What just happened there? It just like randomly skipped. Hold up. Now I'm gonna just skip back. We've only gone through like 10 pieces of dialogue. That was weird. I touched like my PlayStation controller and it was just like skip through a bunch. Alright. Let's skip up back to where we were. Yeah, if I remember where I was. Yeah, threatening Father. Yeah, I'm told these are connected in some way, shape, or form. I was told to pay attention to the words of Miss Berncastel, Frederica Berncastel, I think it was. Yeah, he's crazy. But anyway, as I was saying, Natsuhi and Kraus are like literally lying to everyone about the gold existing, desperately to try and get the money without having to ever fight for it. And it seems like At the very least, the adults in this family are like completely unwilling to work for their own fucking money. Like they're just gonna manipulate people into giving them money, and most of them seem pretty incompetent with their wealth. So if they weren't born into wealth, they would have been fucking broke as fuck, man. So I think that like the unwillingness to like actually solve even like a simple treasure hunt for all this fucking money makes perfect sense. Like they're like, I'm not gonna compete with you for this. I should just be giving it. So I'll do everything in my power to keep them from ever deciding that they'd ever look for it. Because I mean, the servants are dumb asses because they're unwilling to look for it in the first place, even though they're directly told by the fucking owner of the estate that if they find the gold, they get everything. Like, I don't know what incentive he's supposed to give fucking Cannon, the dumb fuck, who's like, I don't want $100 million US dollars. What am I supposed to do with all that? It sounds too much like work to me. And like doesn't like whatever. I don't know what the fuck's going on with those guys. I mean, you don't have to be greedy, but like if someone says, hey, if you do this, you know, I'll give you $100 million, and it's not like something absurd, I mean, why not? Like, what else are you doing on this island? Let's be real. You're trapped on an island year-round as a servant with literally nothing else to do other than work and sleep. You know, I'd be trying to solve the riddle. Even if I had no clue what I was doing, I'd be wandering the island looking for something. Like, what the fuck else am I gonna do? It's not like I can go to town or go to a bar or something. Like, whatever the fuck they're doing in the 1980s. Like, you can't spend the night anywhere. You have to be home in time for your shift because you're working 7 days a week. Like, surely someone's gonna try and solve it, but nope, apparently not. The people who want the money don't want to refuse to solve it because they don't want other people to think that the gold exists. The people who know it exists either don't want it or refuse to solve it. Hey, my dude, what's up? Yeah, he's the man who bears responsibility for the family and all its wealth. He's been exposed to many threats and attacks in the past. Sure he has. He lives on a deserted island. Family only prospers because he was able to overcome all of them by being given $1 bajillion in gold. That's right. Does Discord have a spoiler channel? Ooh, that's a good thought. I can add a spoiler channel. That'll go up tonight. That'll go up tonight, and I'll proceed to not be able to look at it? Alright. I'll add a spoiler channel for the game we're currently playing. I think that's fair. Nice, you didn't get MP2 Yang, but you got Saber Fran and NP3 Lobo. MP3 Doggo. Oh, that's cute. You leveled up Fran. That's Saber Fran. That's the Zappy Lightning Sword one. That's cool. I like her. She's easier to work with than the original Fran. Alright, you can't imagine grandfather obeying someone because of a threat? Jessica, watch your language. Ooh. Yes, Mom. You just want Ryogi Shiki? I already got me a Shiki. I already got me one Shiki. I don't need another one. I already got me Shiki. Shiki's in the K&K event, right? You can either get her as the ultra rare, you can either get her as the super rare saver when she's on rate up, or she's available during the event, which is not getting it's already got its rerun a long time ago. Imagine having either Saber Rare Sash and Shiki. I have one. I have an assassin, Shiki. She's great.
ならこういう発想はどうだ。
In that case, what about this idea? You have the welfare one?
いやこれもぶっ飛んでるか。
Best girl in Asuverse. Alas, the saber one is more the saber one is void Shiki rather than female Shiki, so not as cool unless you really, really, really like the laid back could destroy the universe chick more. Kankei's good. Yeah, Kankei is pretty solid. Those are some good movies. You guys have a favorite one? My favorite one is the one I believe that ends with the tower, where the events in the movie are completely out of order, and it's like a massive freaking headache to watch. That one was pretty crazy. Or am I confusing two movies? I might have. I watched them all at the same time. I just know that I was just like I was like a fucking mindfuck watching that movie, being so confused the whole time and slowly piecing it together as the movie progressed. That was fun. Because you'd see the same scene sometimes, or the same scene but played literally in reverse. Oh, that was so weird. Watching a scene and then watching the scene play out again at a later time but in reverse, and you're like, oh, it's the same scene. Oh, that was fun. Yeah, the one with that guy, that was your favorite. Yeah, that was good. That was really good. I think there were a couple other good ones, but I think that was my favorite. Alright, what about this idea? No, wait. Is this also way out there? Probably Battler. The one where Void Shiki is the last one. The one where Void Shiki appears is the last one. Your favorite Shiki moment is when she went, "Fuck this, I'm out," after seeing Magical Girl Lupia's deadlines or hearts. I couldn't hesitate. Out there, ideas are like bows and arrows. It might be hard to hit with, but it's a great weapon because you can hit enemies far away. They say most people who've died in battles were killed by arrow wounds. In a battle, you can't just shoot off one arrow. You shoot a whole bunch of arrows at once, pushing forwards towards enemy troops with a wall of them. So keep shooting over and over. Create a wall as you push forwards towards the truth. Okay. If the culprit is after the hidden gold, forcing us to solve it wouldn't be very efficient for them. It'd be quicker to ask and easier to ask the person who made it in the first place. Need Shiki and Melty Blood already? Yeah, it's really weird, isn't it? For Type Lumina. The new Melty Blood doesn't have... I can understand why they don't have Shiki, but holy shit, they don't have Shion, which is the dumbest thing. Literally, the protagonist of the plot for Melty Blood is not present in the sequel. Like the equivalent of making a Street Fighter without Ryu. You'd be like, what's going on? Where's Ryu? Or like Mortal Kombat without Scorpion? Like, I don't understand this. I don't understand why they just like axed her. There's a couple characters that I'd liked back. I'd like Shiki back too, though. I feel like it'd be nice if we had some representation from that franchise at all. Or that IP, sorry. And Shiki's a good rep. Shiki's a good representative of that IP. And yes, Shiki Ryugi is better than Shiki Tono, yeah. But Tono is also like the main the main character of Tsukihime, so kicking him out would also be kind of weird. Well, that's mean. Alright, this Shiki Tono sim is what it is. Alright, in this case the question is this all a message directed at Grandfather? In other words, these murders were a threat made against Grandfather. If he didn't tell the culprit where their gold was, his family members would be killed off one by one. What if we weren't the only ones being forced to solve the riddle? What if Grandfather was too? If you think about it that way, it explains Grandfather's mysterious disappearance. If the culprit had already attacked Grandfather, then judging by the state the 6 corpses were in, he should have been left on display somewhere with that horrible makeup added. But despite that, we still haven't found him. Does that mean grandfather's been kidnapped and is being held somewhere?
そんな
How could...
まさかそんな
You aren't saying... How could... I mean, he's disappeared.
面白い話じゃない
Now that sounds
つ
interesting.
まりお父様はどこかに監禁されていて
So grandfather's being confined somewhere.
黄金のありかを話さないと次々に殺人を繰り返すぞ
And the killer's saying we'll be killed off one by one if he doesn't tell us where the gold is. Or tell them where the
その
gold is.
話のどこが面白いのか理解に苦しみます
It pains me to imagine how you find that interesting. What do you mean? It is an interesting thought. It might actually even be a theory that works. Aunt Natsuhi glared at her, but Aunt Eva just smiled calmly.
この時間になっても姿を現さない以上、おじい様が事件に巻き込まれているのはほぼ間違いないと思います。
Since we still haven't seen him after all this time, I think it's almost certain grandfather's gotten caught up in the crime.
それを思えば、バトラ君の仮説も無視することはできないんじゃな
If
い
you
ですか。
think about it, you can't just ignore Battler Kun's theory, right? Yeah, it's
ジョー
pretty
ジ
hard
は
to
黙
ignore.
ってなさい
Quiet, George.
そもそもお父様っていついなくなったのかしら
In the first place, when did father actually disappear?
最後にお父さんの姿を見たのは誰や
Who was the last person to see father?
多分私でしょう
It was probably me.
今朝主人たちの姿が見えないと騒ぎになった時お父様の書斎にいるかもしれないという話になり
It was probably me. This morning, when we didn't know where my husband and the rest were, we discussed the possibility of them being in father's study.
私がお部屋にお伺いしてそこでご挨拶をしました
I went to check his room and greeted him there.
そういえば書斎の鍵をずっと借りっぱなしですね
Come to think of it, I've been holding the key to the study this whole time, haven't I?
これは返しておきます
Genji, allow me to return this to you. Aunt Natsuhi pulled out the gold key and handed it to Genji. Looking at the key, Aunt Eva giggled.
ねえ源氏さ
Hey,
ん
Genji.
どうせ警察はお父様の部屋も徹底的に捜査すると思うわ
I'm sure the police will inspect father's room
何
thoroughly.
を隠していてもどうせ暴かれちゃう
I'm sure if there's anything hidden there, it'll just be
だ
exposed
からち
anyway.
ょっと早く今この場で話してくれてもいいんじゃな
It
い
might
か
be
しら
better if you just told us about it right here, right now. Did I know Umineko had a fighting game? Yes, I do. Golden Fantasia, and I believe Battler's Grab is like ultra long range magical claws, where he gropes someone's chest and makes comments on the text on the feel of it. Yeah. So yes, I'm aware. Alright, so Genji, you gonna tell us about any secret passageways or entry points to the room?
何のお話でしょうか
What are you talking about?
シンプルな話よ
It's simple.
お父様の書斎はその鍵がなければ外から入ることはできない密室よ
Father's study is a closed room with no way in or out except for that key, right? Looks like I need to take a drink. Thanks, guys.
その定義の確認をしたいの
I want to verify whether that's
お
true.
父様の部屋には入り口が一つある
There's one entrance to
あ
Father's
とは
study.
窓
What about the window?
他に出入り口は
Any other entrances or exits?
ありません
There are none.
中に入るには入り口しかありません
There's no way in except the entrance.
間違いなくね
You're sure?
秘密の隠し扉なんかがあったりはしないのね
There ain't some secret hidden door or
お
anything?
父様が不在である以上後ろ宮家の最高序列者は私よ
Since father isn't here, I'm the highest ranked member of the Yashiromiya
その
family.
後ろ宮家の当主代行として聞いているの
I'm asking you as a representative of the family head.
それを理解した上で答えなさい
Remember that when you answer me. I mean, if you're concerned about the servants, this isn't gonna give you an answer anyway.
あの部屋には入り口以外に他に出入り口は
Are there any way in or out of that anyways in or out of that room other than the main entrance?
お父様の最高の側近だったあなたは知っているはずよ
As father's closest aide, I'm sure you would know. Aunt Natsuhi looked a little offended at the part about the highest-ranked family member. But she kept her mouth closed for the time being and waited for Genji's answer. Do I think I will play Sonia after I finish Umineko? Probably not. Probably not. There's a few reasons for that. I'm definitely not playing it immediately afterwards, because I want to explore some other stuff. And I enjoy actually playing games. And this is less a game and more of a book. So I'd like to change something with a little bit more gameplay after Umineko. But maybe we'll go back. There's an okay chance that like it shows up on the vote for the next visual novel or next game we play. After all, I do usually give chat some options and put it up to a vote. Our last vote, for anyone interested, was on Discord. And the options, since I may as well let you know what the options were, he says, as he completely forgets how this randomly got changed around. Thanks, Discord. The options were Magikoi, Mask of Truth, Chaos Head, and Umineko and Other. And Umineko won out. So there'll be a vote with 3 to 4 options or so. 3 to 5 options are usually where it goes. 5 was a little generous, but I usually try to put 3-4 actual options and then like something that's like, yeah, we don't like these options, give me something else. As I think it's fair. You know, it's always annoying when you go to the fucking polls when you're voting. You know, I go to the polls to fucking vote, and you know you're stuck in that awkward situation where you have to pick between like, you know, Donald Trump and Junior Hitler, and you're just like, can I say no? Yeah, like I would really not want to. I really don't want to force people into making a choice they don't want to make. I'd rather let people say, "Hey, I'm not a big fan of these choices. Can we get something else?" And then everyone wins, because, you know, in theory, saying I don't want any of these. If it's a bad choice, if all the choices are bad, that should be the biggest choice, or that should be like the most popular one. It's anything else, right? Although maybe the unknown is scary. Although the unknown can be scary, so maybe people don't pick that. Either way, I couldn't help but feel a little uncomfortable. Why was she going on and on about hidden doors?
カノン君も熊沢さんも知ってるなら教えてくれない？
You too, Canon-kun. Kumasawa. If you know, won't you tell me?
あるならあるって言ってくれた方がいいの。
If there is one, it'd be better if you said so.
じゃないと今からある人がとても追い詰められることになるわよ。
Otherwise, a certain person might be driven into a corner in a second. Oh.
隠し扉があると仮定されたら、私の話はすべて水の泡。
If we assume there's a hidden door, my argument comes to nothing. Aunt Ava didn't specify which person was about to be driven into a corner, but following the flow of the conversation, I had to feel she was referring to Aunt Natsuhi.
母さん、何の話?
Mother, what are you talking about?
ジョージは少し黙ってなさい。
George, stay quiet for a bit. Why is Ava hot? Because they had to... Because the person designing half the female characters decided to give them cool outfits. That's why. She's got a cool outfit. A rest in peace, but decent, but cool outfit. A nice twist on a classic. R.I.P. in peace, but why is there this giant hole in her blouse? Decent outfit. Decent outfit. Like, I think all the women have decent outfits. Even she has a decent outfit. That's completely at odds with everyone else. This is the most plain and boring of the women's outfits, followed by this one. But she's got other assets that make people like her, so she'll manage. Alright, George, stay quiet for a bit. I'm trying to destroy all my rivals, starting with Aunt Natsuhi.
どうなの?
Rip those plates. Sorry, guys. So, what do you say?
ゲンジさん、
Genji-san?
カノン君、
Canon-kun?
そして熊沢さん、
Kumasawa-san?
隠し扉はあるの?
Is there a
な
hidden
い
door?
の?
Or
ゲン
not?
ジさんはお父様が書斎を改造した時、施工業者の監督をしていたはず。
Genji, when you remodeled Father's study, you must have overseen the
知らない
construction.
とは言わせないわよ。
I won't let you say you don't know.
そのようなものは
There's nothing like that in the master's study.
間違いなく
You're sure?
片翼のわしを許されたカノン君
What about Canon-kun? One who's allowed to wear the one-winged eagle?
はい
That is correct.
間違いなく
I'm sure.
親方様の書斎に隠し扉などありません
There's no such hidden door in the master's study.
熊沢さんは
Kumasawa-san?
いえ、私も聞いたことがありませんよ。
I've never heard of such a thing.
お父様と親交の深い南條先生は
I hate how Ava's wasting so much time on this. Alright, what about Dr. Nancho? You've had a close relationship with father. Dude, we already asked if the fucking thing exists. Move on already.
私もそんなものは聞いたことがありませんな。
I've never heard of something like that.
結構
Very well then.
じゃあいい
You ready?
話を始めるわよ
Let me begin.
とってもシンプルな話なの
It's very simple. You could listen to her voice all day. It is a nice voice. Everyone tilted their heads doubtfully, wondering what Aunt Ava was starting to talk about so proudly. Aunt Ava laughed triumphantly as though she were about to reveal a secret only she knew. Alright. Let's hear it.
お父様を最後に目撃したのは
Natsuhine-san was the last person to spot father, right? Yep. And? She even volunteered to go, and everyone knows that she was the last person to see him because you went with her to check on him the next time. Yep. So what about it?
詳しい時間は忘れちゃったけど今朝の9時前くらいのことだ
I
と思った
forget
わ
the exact time. I think it was a bit before 9 in the morning. Yep.
姉さん覚えてる
Nason, do you remember?
私あなたがお父様の書斎からちょうど出てくるところに出くわしたわよね
I ran into you just as you were coming out of father's study, right? Yes, you were coming after us to see what was taking us so long because we were talking to him. I recall how this went because you sent us there with the intent of trapping us. So I'm curious to see where Ava's going with this because she forced her to go up there. Because as I recall, Ava forced her to go up there in the first place. So this is like a really weird accusation. It's like if you put, it's like if you force someone into a room. If you force someone into a room and then they're like, they were in the room when they were in the room last. It's like, okay. It's like, what's a good example? It's like you hand someone some stolen goods and you're like, oh my god, they were the last person to handle the stolen goods. They're a thief. Get them. And you're like, anyone with 2 brain cells does not get this. This is a pretty transparent, waste of time. That's what I'd say. She's also trying to, frame Nazi, which is kind of weird. It just like comes off as weird to me because I'm someone who sees through it. Maybe it works out if you're in the moment. But from my perspective, this is like a really bad frame job where you basically forced her into the room with the father and then are accusing her of being the last person to interact with father and thus its killer. It's like, it doesn't work. If you give someone stolen goods, if you hand someone stolen goods and then claim they stole it, nobody's gonna buy that shit if they know that you did that. Anyway.
覚えています
Yes, I remember.
それが何だというのですか
And what does that have to do with anything?
そして次に姉さんがお父様の書斎を訪れ
Because
た
here's the
の
thing,
は
right? All Natsuki has to do is say, well, you're the one who forced me to go up there, so if anyone's to fucking blame, it's you. You fucking killed him. You found a way to trick him into the room and killed him, or he left the room and you murdered him because you forced me up there and I didn't want to kill him. Like you knew of a way to get into the room or something, right? You can just say that and it's like, oh, there's no hidden doors. And you're like, not my fucking problem. You set me up to be there intentionally, so I'm calling a frame job from you. And now we're back to fucking nowhere. It's like, I couldn't possibly have predicted that you would force me to go up the stairs to go talk to him, so I'm pretty clean.
兄さんたちの遺体が見つかってからよね
Yep, that was after we found the bodies of Nissan and the rest, right? Yeah.
それを報告しに書斎に上がり そこで私と一緒に不在を確認したわ。
That was after we found the bodies of Nissan and the rest, right? Together with me, you went up to the study to report that, and we discovered he wasn't there.
ところで姉さん、
By the way,
そ
Nissan,
の時お父様の書斎に入ろうとして気づいたことはなかったかしら？
at the time when you went to enter father's study, did you notice anything?
気づいたこ
Notice
と？
anything?
何のことですか？
What could you ever, whatever could you be talking about?
ほら、
Oh, come on.
ゴミを拾ったでしょ。
You picked up some trash,
畳んだ
right?
レシートを。
A folded receipt?
確かにそんなゴミを拾った気がします。
I do seem to remember picking up some
それ
trash.
が何か？
How is that relevant?
そのレシートは私が飛行場に着く前に寄った売店で飴玉を買った時にもらったものよ。
I got that receipt when I bought some candy at a store before arriving at the airport. Aunt Ava pulled a small bag of candy out of her handbag.
ああ、あの時に買った飴のレシート。
The receipt for that candy you bought back there?
でも母さん、そのレシートの話
But
は
what does the receipt have to do
何
with
と関係ある
anything?
の？
ジョージ、もうちょい黙って聞いとってや。
Stay quiet and listen. Uncle Hideyoshi's expression was strict. Apparently he understood what Ava was getting at, so she's saying she was on the other side of the door?
本当にこれは気まぐれよ。
Really just a whim.
何かを予見してたとか、
I didn't foresee
まして
anything.
や夏日姉さんを
Or try to set up a trap for
そんな
Natsuhi
のじゃ
Nesan or
断じ
anything
て
like
ないん
that.
だから。実はね、そのレシート、
About that
姉
receipt.
さんがお父様と最後に会って出てきてそこで私と会ったでしょ？
You remember bumping into me right after the last time you saw father,
そ
right?
の時、書斎の扉に私が挟み込んだものなのよ。
At that time, I wedged this into the door to the study.
ってことは、
So what does that
つまり
mean?
夏日おばさんがそのレシートを拾うまで
Are you saying no one opened the door until Aunt Natsuhi picked up the receipt? Oh, okay, so she's saying... Interesting. So she's saying that, that no one's been in the room since then. Well, then I have an easy question for you. Where did the body go? Okay? Look, here's your accusation. You're accusing Aunt Natsuhi of murdering him. Where could the body be except right outside the window if you're gonna say the body's fucking missing? So, like, let's go check there. That's the easiest solution. Just be like, just Aunt Natsuhi be like, oh, where's the body then? Out the window? Let's go fucking check. Or better yet, because it's typhoon season, was there any water? How about let's go check. Did we have to close any windows? Is there any water in the room? Because that's, well, it's probably been too late, but like, it's probably been a little bit too long since we checked on him. But like, you could check that, and you could check at, let's check where his body is. If his body's, because you're now accusing Aunt Natsuhi of murder, right? So all she has to do is be like, all right, let's check outside the window because there's no entrances or exits. And you were waiting outside the door for me, so I certainly couldn't have gone out. So naturally, unless you assume I'm superhumanly strong, the body's got to be right outside the window. Go find out. Oh wait, we checked outside already. Damn, guess we can't find him. Like, nice and easy. Although I don't know if we actually checked outside, but we can like check specifically under the window because you're assuming that she disposed of the body and can't find it. Which means it has to be like outside the window because there's no other exit to the room. Well, let's find out.
ちょっと待ってよ、エヴァおばさん。
Wait a second, Aunt Ava.
レシート挟むなんてバレバレだって。
Wedging a receipt in would be
小
obvious.
さまが外出した時に気づいて、面白がってもう一回挟み直した可能性も。
It's also possible when someone left, they noticed it and put it back in the door. Yes, that's possible, but that's unlikely? Like, that's less likely than no one being in the room. Yeah, there's a chance he noticed it and put it back in the door, but that's unlikely. Jessica hurriedly argued back. I think that's the worst argument you could have to defend this position, is that, like, someone didn't notice your trick. She still didn't really know what this all meant. But she realized that whoever it was, who had raised suspicions about her own mother.
もちろん、バレないようにレシートは小さく折りたたんだわ。
Of course, I folded it up into a very small shape so that no one would notice
で
it.
もね、レシートが落ちるところを仮に見たとしても、 扉のどこの高さの部分に挟み込ん
But
であっ
even if you
たかは
assume he saw it fall, he would have no way of knowing how high up the door it had been stuck, right?
私は夏日姉さんが鍵を取り出している間に確認したわ。
I checked while Natsuhine-san was taking the key
レ
out.
シートが挟み込まれた位置は寸分の1ミリの違いもなく私が挟んだ場所だった。
Okay, it was still stuck not 1 millimeter away from where I put it. Yeah, okay.
なぜそんな子供じみたいたずらをされるのか理
I
解
don't
で
know
き
why
ま
you
せ
could
ん。
pull such a childish prank.
大方、私の部屋の扉にいたずらをしたのもあなたでしょう。
I'll bet you're the one who did that prank on the door to my room, too.
夏日さんの部屋の
The door to my room? Your
不
room?
愉快な話だったので話しませんでしたが、
It was unpleasant to talk about. I never
今
mentioned
朝
it.
目が覚めたら
When I woke up
扉
this
の
morning,
外側にあのシャッターの落書きと同じと思われる赤い塗料で
there were signs of some prank on the outside of my door with what was probably the same red paint that was scribbled across the shutter. You know what? That's a good time to... Okay, I disagree with... I was thinking defensively and just, like, proving that her statement was false. But you know what? Aunt Eva's been consistently venomous and trying to destroy people, so... And accuse other people of being the murderer, so why don't we turn it around on her and say, well, you know what? It was probably you who scribbled all this mess. It wasn't me, because why would I do that? On my own door. I'll just accuse you of being the murderer, and now you have to disprove that you were the one who painted this. And she can't do that. Because now she's the... Because when we don't have a location, we can accuse anyone we want to of that, and they can't disprove it.
かきむしったような気持ちの悪い跡で
There were unpleasant marks, as though someone had been tearing at the door.
なんやその話。
Wait, what's this?
なんで今まで黙っとったんや。
Why'd she keep quiet about this till now?
申し訳あの後
So many horrible things have happened since then. I forgot about it until this month.
今まで失念知らないわよそんなの
I don't know anything about that. Yeah, not me. Well, you went to bed earlier than everyone else, which means you were likely awake before everyone else. How's that one?
私がしてるのは姉さんの部屋じゃなくてお父様の部屋の扉の話よ
I don't know anything about that. I'm not talking about your door, but the door to father's room,
姉
right?
さんがお父様がいるのを確認してから
This is the most obvious frame job in the history of frame jobs, and it's easy to disprove.
あの
Between the time you
扉
confirmed
は
he was in his
一度
room
も開かれてないのよ
and the time we confirmed he wasn't, that door wasn't opened even once. Listen, Ava, like, you already got head family status by killing everyone else, so... what else do you want?
扉を使わず
Have father get out if he didn't use the door?
外に出たのかしら
Well, clearly he jumped out.
そんなことは知
How
り
am
ま
I
せん
supposed to know that?
私が知りたいくらいです
That's what I want to know?
夏日姉さんの他にお父さんの在室を確認したのは誰や。
Other than you, who else checked to see whether father was in his room?
昨夜金蔵さんとチェスをしたのがあった最後でした。
Last night, I met Kinzo. The last time I met Kinzo was when we were playing chess.
夕食の直前までご一緒だったはずです。
I was with him until just before dinner.
それより後の時間は誰かお
And
らんの
after
か。
that,
私です。
I did. Genji probably served him dinner.
昨夜の晩餐のお世話をしております。
I gave him dinner last night.
はい僕とシャノンも一緒でした
Shannon and I were with him.
ここまでは間違いなくお父さんも部屋にいたやろな。
So at that time, father was definitely in his room.
だがな、夏日姉さん。
However,
不在
Natsuhine-san,
だった書斎は窓も扉も全て閉め切られた状態だったそうやないか。
when you found out he wasn't there, it looked like all ways in or out of the study were closed, right?
なのに夏日さんは今朝お父さんに会って話をしたいと。
But even so, you said you met with him this morning?
私には皆さんが何を険悪になっているのか
I
わ
don't
かりません
understand why everyone's become so gloomy. Dude, just check outside. Tell her, let's go look yourself. Send Battler with you. I mean, I wouldn't trust Jessica, so we'll send Battler, because he seems fairly neutral. Be like, Battler, you and Ava, check outside the window, see if his body got thrown outside. Let's fucking go. Alright, that's probably what I'd be saying, like, go find it the fuck out. Why are you accusing me of murder when you could just go prove it in 2 seconds? Don't be an idiot. That's what I'd be saying if I was in Natsuhi's place. Anyway, You don't know why everyone's become gloomy? Because someone's accusing Natsuhi of murdering their father. Did you explain it to me? Father and mother are accusing Natsuhi of murdering grandfather. That's from George's perspective, of course. Are you saying that what Natsuhi has said about meeting grandfather this morning was a lie? Like how she'd lie about that? Mom's guiltless? Why would she lie? I mean, she's an... I don't know why she would lie. But she should have killed Ava if she was the killer, because Ava's the person who's going to receive literally 100% of the inheritance right now. As Natsuhi's like rank 10th? Right? Natsuhi's 10th rank in the family, below Jessica. And Jessica's below Ava, so I don't see why she'd kill Grandpa here. Jessica. I keep telling you to watch your language. All at once the room was in an uproar. Aunt Ava and Natsuhi confronted each other across the parlor table, with George confronting Jessica. What the heck's going on? Many people spotted him last night, right? But since this morning, the only one who claims to have seen father is Natsuhi-san. Sure. I mean, we know Ava's especially venomous and hates Natsuhi, so she already has like a really strong pre-existing hatred of this character and a desire to see them dead or expelled from the family, so like I can easily see Ava lying about this if she wanted to. So we'll see how this goes. And there's the strange fact we learned from my receipt. Sure. I mean, if you want to say he left the door, like if you want to say that their grandfather didn't use a secret door and just left normally, and then Ava's lying about it to try and get Natsuhi killed, it's not a completely unreasonable proposition. If we wanted to argue that there was a murderer, Ava certainly is gaining everything from these deaths and immediately making accusations of other people to get them also voted off the island. Seems like a good plan to keep people from looking her way. How do we connect these points together? Alright, someone please just say, clearly she threw him out the window. Aunt Ava urged everyone to imagine it. Sure, that receipt could be an important point, but I didn't know which other points tie to it or how. If we try searching for the answer Aunt Ava probably wants, we'll find that Aunt Natsuhi lied and acted as though grandfather was in the room this morning. Has that fact been exposed by a whim of Aunt Ava's? I mean, you should know that Aunt Ava hates Natsuhi, right? We know that. Natsuhi knows it. Multiple other people know it. This seems like just another attack of Aunt Ava's directly on Natsuhi, who's endlessly being attacked by Ava. It's like, wow, a bully's bullying people. Like, holy shit, let's phone up the fucking news networks. We need to let them know bullies bully people. Like, oh my god. I don't get it at all. We're wasting time is what we're doing. Why would mom have to lie? Jessica's being stupid. So, she had no reason to, right? You played Forum Mafia recently and all their cross accusations remind you of the game? Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what you do, right? Like, if you're someone who looks really suspicious, a really easy way to get the blame off of you is to just start accusing people or like connecting dots where they don't exist or making shit up that people aren't going to source. So if you're playing on forums, like if you assume that people aren't going to check more than 3 pages backwards, you can make up what anyone says from a few pages ago if you really want to. If you really want to and assume no one's going to check, or you could, or like what you said and say like you edited it out or some shit. Like there's a few ways to play games like that. Or you just accuse people in general. Like that's an easy way when you're playing Mafia and realize that things could lead back to you. You just play really aggressive and get people killed. And sure, like you might eventually die, but you're probably going to axe a couple more people and then the game might be over by then. Because you only need to like eliminate the people who like who are gonna result in your defeat or who your team can't bring down. That's what I want to know.
でもね、ジェシカちゃん。
But Jessica,
お父様の材質を偽る価値が全くないとは限らないのよ。
you can't be sure she had no reason to lie and say that grandfather was in the room.
推理小説でもたまに出てくるでしょ。
After all, you see it in mystery novels every now and
生
then.
存時刻を偽ることによって自分のアリバイを偽証するトリックよ。
The trick where people fake time of death to create an alibi for themselves.
なんだそりゃ。
What are you talking
そ
about?
んなの聞いたことないぜ。
You've never heard of that?
お父様はまだ見つからないけれど。
We haven't found father
普
yet.
通に考えれば
It's natural to assume he's
もう
already been killed.
殺されていると考えるのが
Why don't we look-
自然で
okay.
しょうね。
Why are we wasting so much time talking, Ava? Are you not stalling for time or some bullshit to make it look worse for her? Because, as far as I can tell, since you yourself checked the study and didn't find his body, and we just confirmed there's no secret entrances or exits, and he didn't leave through the door, the only other possibility is the window, and people fall maybe 4 feet from the window. It's 3 stories. 3 fucking stories. Like, it's not like he's gonna be in the fucking forest. Go outside, verify his body's there. If it's there, you can accuse her. If it's not, you have, at best, circumstantial evidence that looks bad. It's so easy. But we're having this discussion instead of doing that. Oh well.
となれば必ず近いうちに死体は見つかる。
Alright. It's natural to assume he's already been killed. If that's true, there's no doubt we'll find his corpse soon. Okay, where's the corpse gonna
そ
be?
の時死亡時刻をうまく偽ることができれば夏日姉さんはアリバイを作ることができるのよ。
At that point, the time of death could be cleverly faked. Natsuhi Nesan would be able to create an
わ
alibi.
かる？
You understand? I understand that I want to see the body and it has to be below the window. So, it has to be below the window, so let's go there.
みんな
Everyone? This morning when Aunt Natsuhi confirmed grandfather was there, she lied and he's already been dead. And then she moved the body to some other location and tampered with it, so when we find it, we'll think he was killed a second ago. Okay. That makes it possible for her to create an alibi even just by staying with the rest of us. Then she could say, I heard someone screaming, dash over there and become the first to find the body along with everyone else. That's what Ava's saying? Yep.
バカバカしい。
Ridiculous.
推理小説など所詮は娯楽小説。
Detective novels are merely books for the purpose of
そん
entertainment.
なものばかり読んでいるからそのような不謹慎な発想に至るの
You
です。
can only think of such an indiscreet idea because you read them all the time. It's also like the most obvious problem ever.
そうだぜ。
If everyone, how about you say, if everyone knew I was in that room, why the fuck would I murder someone? Like, why would I be the murderer of him if everyone knew I was in that room? That's a terrible idea. You don't need to prove time of death to prove she's a murderer if she's in on the fucking murder. You're like, well, she killed him. This isn't fucking Danganronpa where we need to have the exact way everyone dies written out to the exact minute. This is real life where you can be like, well, there's only one person who was ever in the room. The person was in the room, and then they were dead. QED. They are guilty. Unless you have, like, another way, like a fucking sniper or some shit. But in this case, we don't have, you know, the body's not there, so he clearly wasn't shot. Like, if someone's the only person in the room and that person is dead, and there's nothing from the outside going in, she's clearly guilty, okay? Like, don't waste our time, Ava.
死亡時刻を少しくらいごまかしたってそんなの警察が検視すりゃ一発でバレるじゃねえかよ。
That's right. Even if you tried to fake the time of death, that would be blown away the instant the police did their autopsy.
古典の世界だったらともかく現代日本でそんなトリック本気で通用すると思
It
っ
might
て
have
んの
worked in the
かよ。
past. Do you think it would work in modern Japan?
おかしいぜ。
Ava's saying Natsuhi murdered Kinzo last night, already moved the body in the night, and then pretended to meet Kinzo in the morning as a fake alibi. I mean, she could say that. But then I have the question of how she got into the room when she was given the key by Genji in the morning. I guess the assumption is that Natsuhi also stole the key from Genji's physical person, which means Genji is also guilty of murder, going off of her assumption that the servants are all the guilty parties. So she's accusing all the servants, because all you have to do is say, well, I just got the key this morning, and Genji keeps it on his person at all times, so you're actually just accusing Genji of being the killer, right? Like, that's what you do if you're Nazi. You're like, I just fucking got this key. What are you smoking? Like, that's like the easy defense, right? It's a far more tenuous accusation than Ava's making it sound, but Natsuhi is in the moment, and her defender, Jessica, is being completely useless. Natsuhi is not coming up with great arguments because she's like under a lot of pressure and flustered because she's being bullied by someone who usually bullies her, which makes her defenses weaker because she's like used to, you know, not succeeding in anything. You know, no one believes her, everyone hates her, and they're like, fuck off, Ava's the best, woo Ava. So she's like, I can understand why Natsuhi is not putting together a good argument, but Jessica's just being useless here. Sorry about that. Had a drink of water and I think it went down the wrong pipe. Ugh. Alright. You think so?
南條先生が亡くなった人たちの死体を見て死亡時刻を曖昧に見積もられたわよ。
This morning when Dr. Nanjo looked at the corpses, he was only able to give a vague estimate of the time of death, right?
検視結果は環境や個体差に非常に左右されやすい。
Autopsy results are easily affected by the environment and individual differences.
数時間単位で誤差の出る非常にアバウトなものなのよ。
It's a relative estimate with an uncertainty of several hours.
しかも困ったことに警察の科学的な捜査は明日にならないとできない。
And unfortunately, the police's scientific investigation will have to wait until tomorrow. Yep. I mean, if you ask me, before any of these murders happened, who would be the first person to accuse someone of murder, I would have told you that I would have blindly told you that Ava's going to accuse Natsuhi of being the murderer. And that's before anyone actually died. Just knowing that there were going to be people getting killed here. I was like, if it's not obvious they're in a situation where they have to do this, this golden treasure hunt, 500% Ava's going to accuse it. Because it's like, she hates her with a burning passion to the point where it's like completely obvious. So I feel like even if I don't know Natsuhi, even if I don't know whether Natsuhi is guilty or not, it's like really weird for Ava to be throwing suspicion at her. It's like, you know, you have a bunch of friends and in your friend group there's two people who really don't get along. And then you're playing any game, and the second someone does something, and you're like, "Who the fuck did this?" It's like that person instantly accuses the person they don't like, and you're like, "Oh yeah, sure, right, okay." And like no one believes that. Like people literally are just like, "Oh, are you doing this shit again?" Like fuck off. That's how it would be in real life with Ava here. I'm pretty sure that's how it'd be in real life with Ava, but people would be like slightly more political about it. Because, like, Ava has, in all of her scenes, done nothing but every time Natsuhi and Ava are in the same room, she harasses Natsuhi. And that's before people die, so, like, I assume she's just doing the same bullshit here. Where she's like, oh, well, something happened, guess we'll bully Natsuhi and waste time, because she's just, like, hates her with a burning passion. That's, like, my perspective, where I'd immediately be, like, taking every single one of her accusations with a big-ass grain of salt. Because as far as I can tell, Natsuhi hasn't actually done anything to deserve that, or at least in the most recent couple days. Maybe she's done something I missed. Alright. It won't be easy to measure the correct time of death so accurately even in modern Japan. Alright. Isn't that right, Doctor?
検視は経験と勘の必要な
Examining a corpse is extremely difficult task that requires both experience and instinct. I heard there's a high chance of a mistaken diagnosis.
ほんの数時間程度の誤差を出してしまうことは大いにあり得るでしょうな。
It's very possible for a misreading of a few hours to occur. Well, I mean, I would say check the rose beds for... I would say check the trim for trampling, but I mean, it's a typhoon, so... Would you see anything? Maybe, maybe not. So I think at this point, if we're eating the accusation that she's... Yeah, if we're eating the accusation that she murdered him and moved the body, then you say, okay, well, I didn't have the key, so Genji let me in, right? And now you're accusing Genji, and Genji's like, well, I didn't kill him. And last time I saw him, both Shannon and, what's-his-face were there, and you're like, well, I guess then he was dead then, so you're accusing all the staff? And he was dead before dinner? And then you're accusing like 4 people of murder, which is a tall order. And you can be like, well, okay, that's some pretty suspicious evidence. Is it possible that that didn't happen? Because now you're accusing Cannon of murdering his sister, right? Which is like, okay, now you want people to like kill people they actually like. Seems unusual, especially because I believe Natsuhi's favored servant is one of the dead ones as well. So it's like, okay, so you're accusing Natsuhi of murdering her husband, her father-in-law, her favorite servant. Like, she murdered everyone but her daughter? Like, is that what you're going on? Like, that doesn't really fly. And it's for what? I don't get what it's for, because she's already getting most of the inheritance, so there's like 0 motive here. Like, eldest is presumably getting most of the inheritance. It seems like everything is good for Natsuhi, and there's no motive for the murder. Maybe that's another angle you could go off of instead of the key, if the key argument fails. That would be my backup. What's my motive? I'm getting all the inheritance anyway. Why am I killing this asshole? Like, why do I care? Why do I care if he lives or dies? It's quite the tenuous accusation, but they're spending a long time on it due to, I guess, some clever misdirection on her part, and a lack of good defendants for Natsuhi. A bit unfortunate that Natsuhi's in this position, mostly because Hideyoshi's biased. For an alibi, it's more than enough. It's an old trick. A trick that works well enough. I think it works best because most people here are biased towards Ava, right? Hideyoshi is biased towards Ava. And he might even be in on the killing if she's the killer. George is also biased there. And George is also older than the, incredibly rough around the edges Jessica. Of anyone to put forward a straightforward and logical argument, she's probably the second most useless at that. Next is Maria, because Maria's 9 years old. So, Natsuhi's fighting quite the uphill battle here against multiple adults who are quite biased. Right. Natsuhi, it's not like we want to suspect you, okay? We want you to prove your innocence so we don't have to suspect you. What is this innocence you want me to prove? This morning I met with Father. And he told me to keep the one-winged eagle engraved in my heart. Are you denying that he said that too? I certainly won't permit that. I won't let you deny Father said that. Or maybe Father's body won't appear anywhere. Normally someone has to be missing 7 years before they're officially dead. Wouldn't that be a clever way to extend his finished life? Another 7 years and keep all his wealth to yourself. Why would you say this? She's getting the lion's share of the inheritance anyway. This is stupid. This is stupid, but okay. The backup might be, hey, did you know to put the receipt there before we even found... How did you know to put the receipt there before we found any bodies? Ooh, that's a good thought. I hadn't thought of that. How did you know to put the receipt there before we found any bodies? Did you know we were going to find bodies? And that we'd be back and there'd be a murder? That's very interesting. That's a thought. I hadn't thought about that one. Why are you putting the receipt why are you putting the receipt there in an attempt to entrap someone when there's been no bodies found? Is this a setup? Is this been a setup from beginning? That's a really good call. I hadn't thought of that. And that 100%, the best part about that is it turns it around on her because she's like, oh, I was just, you know, like checking if anyone actually went or some shit. Hideyoshi's interesting because he always takes the service level role of moderating calling horse, but he's always on Eva's side. Yeah. That's why I said Natsuhi is quite, Natsuhi is very much in a bad situation in terms of arguing because she's basically arguing against her bully. Her bully's enabler and her bully's son, where she doesn't really have anyone anyone who argues for her ever, which was the problem in their first encounter, right? So, if you recall, when they first start talking about the inheritance, a few hours prior, before anyone's dead, Kraus isn't helping her at all or arguing in her favor. Kraus is just letting her eat all the flack in the world from Eva and Hideyoshi until she storms out and he's like, get fucked, I guess. So, this is like just as bad, if not worse, because now George is also on their side, and she has Jessica, but that's like I gotta say it again, like, Jessica's not the person you want on your side in a debate. She's completely useless. I mean, George, like, I don't know if George is that much better, but he's at least got like some sound reasoning, so his biased arguments are probably gonna come through better than anything Jessica can come up with, and he's like 5 years older and has a pretty good understanding of a lot of stuff, whereas Jessica, like, she can't make an argument to save her life. Even if she had a good statement, it would probably come out really poorly, and someone else would have to carry the argument home for them. How's it going, my dude? Yeah, Hideyoshi is 100% biased in favor of Eva, and he consistently shows it, but, like, it's not completely unreasonable that he's that way, so it's not like you can hate him for it, but he's not being impartial. He's just being, like, a calming force, right? Like, you might first think he's moderating, but he's not actually moderating the argument, because he's never opposed to Ava's statements. Alright. Yeah, you're accusing her of murder now. Does the gun work? Ooh, what do you think you're saying to the wife of Kraus, excited to the head, and the one who will act as such in his place? What's this? A gun that probably doesn't work? You gonna shoot me with that gun? Go ahead. It'd be nice. If only you'd just shoot. He's probably not gonna kill her with this, but you know, it'd be nice to imagine her shooting Ava so that we get someone who's doing nothing but causing problems and slowing our progress through the story. As this is, this feels like a hill on the way to the mountain we want to climb. The mountain being our actual goal of figuring out what's going on. Whereas Ava seems to just be an obstacle in that path. You know, a roadblock, a speed bump, something you kind of want to just get over before you can progress somewhere. That said, I guess she serves the role of antagonist for this section of the arc fairly well. Only you just shoot, you're desperate because you can't think of a way out, right? Do it, obscure the truth with violence. It wasn't like Natsuhi had actually been holding the gun at that ready and threatening anyone. But as she was egged on by Ava, she did hold it at the ready. Unsurprisingly, once things get to this stage, Jessica and Genji tried to stop her. Madam, please calm yourself.
母さんは嘘なんかついてない。
Mom, you aren't lying.
ならこんなの聞き捨てなきゃ。
There's no reason for you to listen to this. Ava wants you to do it, so do it. I want to see it happen. Calm down, Nazi. Actually, I'd like to see Hideyoshi get shot here if someone gets shot. Let's see that one happen. I don't think Ava dies here. That would be really silly. But I'm like, who could die here? Hideyoshi, the moderator, one of the guests, one of the servants could die. I'm like, if she shoots someone, who gets shot? And who would it matter if it was? Maybe George? All you gotta do is swear that father was definitely in the room. She's already done that 3 times, you dumb fuck. Why are you getting so worked up? I'd like to point out that, why you mad, bro, to someone. This is literal, again, I've just said, like, Natsuhi's been consistently bullied by Ava, so when you're like, why are you mad? It's like, she's been bullying me my entire fucking life. Get the fuck out of here, you dumb fuck. But, that's why. Which is a perfectly legitimate thing to say. Although, Hideyoshi would say, well, go fuck yourself, because Hideyoshi is enabling his wife, so... Hideyoshi has consistently enabled his wife, so... I entirely expect him to say this. He's playing his role, and he's like, why are you mad? It's like, hello? Were you not even paying attention to, like, the last 5 arguments where I had to leave because Ava was being such a bitch to me and you enabled her? Like... Now, she could say that, but I can tell you from experience that even if you explain that to someone, they don't give a fuck. That's correct. The doctor could die and no one would care, right? The doctor could die and no one would care. I don't think he would be relevant if he died. Maybe he's out of the story at this point? I don't know. Let's see, that's correct. Nazi, he isn't lying. This might just be some false tension to see what happens. Let's assume that it's false tension. Shouldn't that be the end of it? I want you to explain. How did father disappear from the room? The window was closed, tight from the inside. The same was true for the door. This morning, if you really met with him, you must explain how he disappeared from this unopenable door, closed room scenario. If you don't, that means you're lying after all, right? Yeah, I'm still trying to think of like what you would do if you were the killer of all these people, and why you would go to the room in the first place if you knew he was already dead. It seems really stupid because it's pretty like if you're Aunt Natsuhi, like let's think Natsuhi is the killer, okay? I know we were told we got a first-person perspective shot from Aunt Natsuhi's perspective, so we know for a fact that the father's alive. But like, if you're Aunt Natsuhi and you're the killer, let's assume that she's the killer and they're right. Let's work from a different angle and see if we can approach this in a way that makes sense. If you're Aunt Natsuhi, why would you knock on the door and say he was alive? Doesn't that make it so that you're 100% like the person lying, right? Like if it turns out, if someone finds out he disappeared, like the servants inevitably do when they serve him dinner, and you say he was alive, doesn't that make you immediately suspicious? It seems like it's a really weird thing to like go to the room and claim you saw him, as you're only guaranteeing that you're the guilty party in terms of his death. I think that's an alright counter argument, right? You're like, okay, let's assume I'm the killer. I don't think Natsuhi can put this together, but let's assume I'm the killer. I'm Natsuhi. Why would I go to the room, go inside the room, and claim I spoke with him, knowing that he was dead and not present in the room, so that you could easily accuse me of being the murderer? That seems like a bad idea. Especially when I know there's 6 more bodies we're going to find in 5 minutes. Like, that seems like a really bad thing for me to do, to immediately out myself as the killer. Unless, like, I expected it to not be discovered at any point, but then I'm also the person who said I'd go to the room and talk to him. Like, she volunteered to go there twice when he was presumably dead? That seems like a bad idea. I'm saying like, how could we argue our way out of this without, you know, checking for the body? What's another argument? And I just thought of this one now. Ava would ignore that? Of course she would. Ava's going to ignore that because Ava's trying to bully her. She's always she's always trying to, oh, she's not trying to, she is trying to do that. She is trying to unseat Natsuhi and Kraus, but she actively hates Natsuhi, and she doesn't actively hate Kraus. Because she doesn't hate and bully Kraus, she only does that to Natsuhi. She specifically targets Natsuhi, and then she, like, acts like her rest of her siblings against Kraus. So she's not, like, exceptional against Kraus. And we could compare that to, like, the other siblings. Like, she doesn't directly target Kiri at all. Although maybe it's because she's simply not a rival, as she's lower ranked as her, as Rudolph is lower ranked. Like, that might be how it goes. I'm just saying, I think you could make that argument. Ava would obviously ignore it, but hopefully the Doctor, who is the only person you could possibly get on your side, other than Battler in this scenario, would probably make an argument. Natsuhi is the only person supporting Kraus. I mean, Natsuhi is... Here's the thing, though. Natsuhi is supporting Kraus, but she's... Kraus is not actually... Like, Kraus and Natsuhi are not acting like they're on the same team. Natsuhi is helping Kraus, and Kraus is, like, pushing Natsuhi away in the arguments we're seeing. So it's not like... Kraus wants or needs Natsuhi around as support, as he's doing just fine without it. Also, I'd say, like, he's a shitty husband, but, you know, it is what it is. He's a shitty person and a shitty husband. And I feel like Natsuhi is just there because she's, like, forced into this role. But anyway, you know that means you're lying? No, it doesn't. You have at best circumstantial evidence. Kraus is too busy buying NFTs for profit. Looks at... yes, that glorious profit of, oh, negative 98% gains. Interesting. But yeah, okay, so now we're proof. So now they're asking for proof of where the body is. Now they're asking for her to prove the entire scenario, how Father died, where his body is, and how his body, where Father died, how his body got to where it is, and where it is. Which only the killer knows at this point. So this is actually an impossible request. Because if you don't, it means you're lying. In this scenario, you say that's an impossible request, as I'd have to know where the body is to do that, and you shoot her, and, you know, presumably die because you're screwed. We'll see how we get out of this. How far do you plan to mock me? If you want to argue back, go ahead. Try explaining it right now. If you do, I'll apologize for suspecting you. How did Father get out of the closed room? I cannot explain, there's no need for me to do so. Really? Okay. Let me explain it. Let me take the best parts from my perspective and yours and come up with a more friendly explanation. I'll believe what you said about Father being in his room this morning. Okay. Next time the door opened, Father wasn't there. You don't have any objections so far, right? I have no more desire to hear anything you have to say. That's a fair statement. Okay. You know that everything she says is a lie or designed to entrap you, so it's better to ignore her. That is a solid statement. That's an interesting statement to make, and it would be useful, but unfortunately, you're in a bad situation where you might have to use her words against her, so you actually do need to listen. Unless you're willing to just shoot her. That's what I would say here, is like, you can say that, but you're not in a situation where you can say that. Like, it's true, her words are probably mostly lies, venomous and designed to entrap you, but you're not in a position where you can say anything that's going to, where you can, like, say that line and have it mean anything, because ignoring her doesn't give you an opportunity out of this when clearly Natsuhi doesn't see a way out. Like, we have several arguments for what could be going on or how to disprove this, but Natsuhi doesn't seem to have one of those arguments or be willing to engage in one of them, so saying this doesn't mean a whole lot because no one's going to believe her. Or currently no one believes her. Shut thy frivolous mouth. My reasoning is like this, okay? My reasoning could also be that you blocked where the lock is. You blocked the locking mechanism. How about that one? How about this one? You blocked the locking mechanism so you could go in and out freely. You murdered him, moved the body. I mean, that's improbable. That's improbable, but like, you could say something like that. Or ask questions, or like you said, like, that seems improbable. The window seems okay. I guess Ava's gonna go like this? Okay. Alright, I confirm on both occasions you're the only one to go through the door. The receipt proves it. Remember, the receipt is something that Ava mentioned, and is her evidence that she claims she left there as a trap. Which is weird, because why would you entrap someone for murder before murders occurred? But anyway, we're not going in that one. We could even question the evidence and say, okay, you're making these claims. Well, if you're calling me a liar, I can call you a liar and say the receipt was just on the ground there and you made a claim about this to get me to try and find me guilty of murder so you can oust me from the family, which you already do because you're always trying to do that. That would be an okay argument, actually, to say that the receipt, you just threw the receipt behind me and it landed in my purview, in my line of sight. That would be an okay argument, right? Because it was like when she opened the door back. Alright. What's the answer to the puzzle of how father left the room? The window. He went out the window. He was sent out the window. Natsuhine-san, you threw father out the third-story window of the study into the courtyard. Awesome. So we would have seen that when we were running around the courtyard, right? Like with the bodies? Remember how there's like 6 bodies and we all ran through the courtyard like 6 times? Gods. Easy hole in that. Easy hole in that. It's over the courtyard. That's even more obvious. That's so obvious. It's in the courtyard. If the body's in the courtyard and he's looking out over the courtyard, oh my god. That's so easy. You're just like, oh, it's over the courtyard. So where we would have been, like, walking. You know, with all the body problems. Yeah. Interesting. Madam, please endure it. Ava, please stop this. You know, how's it going, Circus? You know, I think it would be interesting if she actually did just shoot Ava, because it seems so obvious that Ava's not dying here. Would it be like interesting to have our expectations subverted and kill Ava? I don't think so. I don't think it would be a good idea to kill Ava here. Plot-wise, I think it's a bad idea because Ava is our current antagonist and is pushing against like the protagonist's ideas and everyone else is pretty hard, and this is like an alright setup for conflict having an antagonizer, right? Because Hideyoshi's not an antagonizer, Jessica's not an antagonizer. We need someone who's going to antagonize people. And either we have like control freak Natsuhi, who's sort of, as it's been shown, is sort of willing to let go of control, right? Like, she grabbed control, and then she's like, no one's leaving this room. And then, you know, she was like, okay, some people leave this room. Okay, let me know where you're going. Like, she's fairly reasonable and not, like, antagonistic enough to stop them from exploring. So, Ava, on the other hand, is an antagonist, so she's filling the role right now, at least. So, I think she needs to be around a while longer, and just shooting her doesn't solve this problem. But it would be interesting to have my expectations subverted and have her just, boop, dead. It'd be like interesting, but I don't think it would be very useful to the plot. Whenever you have an active theory rather than a hypothetical or notice something important, I recommend writing it down after the stream. That's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. Do I have my pen and paper with me? I have a pen. Let's see if it works. Let's see. after that, when you left, you said you were going to check the doors and windows.
夏日姉さん
You
が
took his father, which fell in the courtyard and hit it.
確認すると言って出て行った時にどこかへ隠したのよ。
You mean when you were like, you mean when we were like checking the bodies? That part?
多分その時に死亡時刻を偽る工作もしたんでしょうね。
That was when you took measures to fake the time of death, right? Alright.
クラウス兄さんたちの事件も、さらに昨べのベアトリーチェの事件もひっくるめて。
This ties in with the case regarding Kraus, Nissan, and the rest, and the case regarding Beatrice last night.
ナスシさんが怪しい可能性が非常に高いっちゅうことだ。
There's a really good chance we got reason to suspect Natsuhi-san in all these cases.
本当なら。
I wouldn't want to say this. I mean, okay. Still, you could ask what the motive is. How about that one? How about you ask what the motive is? That doesn't make sense. There's like zero motive for Natsuhi to kill someone here. Unless you're saying she had like a mental breakdown and is like just a random ass serial killer murdering people because her mind's been fucking broken. Which would be kind of funny because then it'd be like her mind's broken because of Ava's poor treatment of her, and the rest of the family's like medium treatment of her at Ava's hands because they're like completely neutral on that. So why did she snap and kill Kraus instead of killing Ava? That would be a good argument. Like, what's my motive, okay? You're claiming I don't need the money and want to wait 7 years? Like, fuck you. I have the money now. Like, I'm getting most of the money anyway, dumb fuck. Why would I kill Kraus? Lack of motive's a pretty good one, especially when, like, they have no motive to not just have a motive, but they have the opposite of a motive. They have every motive to just take a wait-and-see approach. They're getting the money anyway. Like, of all the families to commit murder, the first in line has the least motive, second in line has the most, and like the other people have to kill everyone else to get there, so they have like an even more difficult task. The fact that Kraus is dead is really weird, because she needs Kraus to be at like the top of the priority list for getting the inheritance. It's a really bad idea to kill him. Everyone else can die. Heck, Jessica can fucking die, but you can't have Kraus die if you want to get the money and be first in line, right? Because now she's 10th in line. Like, now she has to kill Ava and Hideyoshi? Like, are you kidding? Or she has to kill Ava, right? She has to kill Ava to get... She has to have already killed Ava. And Ava was, like, literally the #1 person she had to axe. Unless she thought Ava was, like, a complete joke and easy to deal with. It's just, like, a weird statement. But it's a weird accusation for, like, having the opposite of a motive, whatever that is. A motive not to see the guy dead, because you have you're in a winning position? Whatever. Alright. Motive is not necessarily key, but there is a reason to say that you shouldn't have a motive to do this. Because, like, there doesn't have to be a motive in every case, but you could easily say, what is my motive? And she's like, oh, you want him to stay alive? And it's like, bitch, I don't care if he fucking dies, I'm getting all the money. I don't care if he dies. In fact, if he dies, it's good for me because I got all the money. If he lives, it's probably worse for me. But she, like, kind of preempted that by saying she wanted him to be disappeared so she could have all the money? I don't fucking get that one, but alright. If they're accepting that, I think it's more like Ava's being really aggressive and preempting that possible defense, so she's not using it as a defense. Like, she preempted it with a really bad argument that countered it, but because she preempted it, she feels like it's not a good argument. Now that it's out in the open, there's nothing else I can do. Again, that sounds like a nice statement, but you gotta remember he's like not done anything other than argue in Ava's favor. Please, Natsuhine-san. If Hideyoshi dies, do things escalate? That would be interesting. That's why I thought Hideyoshi might randomly get axed here. Hideyoshi dying might escalate things. As we have two rivals. People are willing to kill each other now. Like, it's getting more and more intense. Ramps up the intensity. Because although he's super biased, he sort of acts like a mediating force, keeping people from doing crazy shit. Or like bringing things back down to neutral or back up from the bottom. So killing that kind of person kind of escalates things because now there's no mediating force in the party and you're relying on like Battler who seems quite unreliable here, as he hasn't spoken a single word this whole argument.
どうか自分の無実を説明してくれ
Explain how you can be innocent.
侍とわしは
Otherwise, I can't help but suspect you.
なぜこの私
Why
が
me?
この私が後宮夏日がこのような恥ずかしめを
Why must I, Shiromi and Natsuhi, be insulted like this? Looks like we got everyone's views on record now. Alright. Well.
ダメだな。
It's all useless.
全然
Useless.
ダメだぜ。
Alright, where are we going,
エ
Battler?
ヴァおばさん。
Ava?
ダメって何がだ
What do you mean,
バトラー
useless? Also, if Natsuhi kills Hideyoshi, that makes her confirmed murderer. Yep. Yeah, probably. And that doesn't make her a confirmed murderer, but that does put her under duress. That does put her a murderer under duress, and she'd probably go to jail for that at least. Because no matter how much you get bullied, it's not an excuse to murder someone. Apparently, I don't really dig that one, but I don't really dig that excuse. But yeah, that's usually how the law works, and I assume that's how the law works in Japan. I feel like if you bully someone every single day and they literally snap and kill someone, it's probably your fault. It's like they get mental help and you go to jail for driving someone to madness. That should probably be like how it goes, but oh well. It's like you should probably be the guilty party for actively driving someone insane. But that's not how the law works. It's kind of annoying. Because you see that often enough. You see that often enough in stories, and it's like, wow, this person snapped, went crazy, and killed someone. And you're like, man, it's really weird that the person who drove them insane didn't get any punishment. It's like, you can bully people. And you can bully people until they kill themselves or kill someone else, but you're not actually guilty for doing anything. It's like, it doesn't matter how many times you kick them in the face. It doesn't matter how many times you literally beat the shit out of them. If they snap and fight back and kill you, they're guilty of murder. It's really stupid. If they actually just it's like really stupid in terms of like self-defense stuff. It's like we know that people can go insane can have mental breaks if they experience enough pressure. So actively causing that to happen should probably result in you being guilty. But that's not how murder works. I think it's really silly. It also means if you could mind control someone, you're not actually... It also means if you mind control someone into killing someone, you're not actually guilty of anything, which is really stupid. So, if you're a telepath, you can mind rape people and you can do whatever you want because it's not you performing the actions. Fun times. You just have to manipulate things so that they think that's what they should do. And not force them to do it. Which is easy. Distort their reality. Easy. Easy. Alright, well, relatively easy. If you're a sociopath. Anyway. I just thought that was funny, because I'm like, if you can do that, why does it's like I thought that was like a fun thought experiment at least. It was like, okay, so if superpowers exist, can a telepath get someone to kill? Are you a telepath planning murder by any chance? No, but I thought it was a fun experiment to see where guilt ends and begins for murder. Because I would say if you like psychologically torture someone or brainwash them into killing someone, they're probably not guilty, but the law would say they're guilty. So you don't have to actually be a telepath. You could just brainwash someone hardcore somehow, in theory. You don't have to include magic. But if you do that, you're not they are in my mind they would not be guilty because although they were fully in control of their physical actions, the effect on their mind that caused them to do harm to someone was not their fault. Like what's leading to their decisions isn't theirs. And is like the greater fault of someone else, but that wouldn't be how the law would interpret that or has interpreted that in the past. Right? A fairly reasonable thing would be like if you're like if you're like husband's beating on you every day and you kill him, unless it is because you think he's going to kill you that time, you're guilty of murder. It's like he can stab you, and as long as he's not actually killing you, he's fine. But we've gotten less than half a scene. It's part of your fault. Oh, it's fun. It's fun though. I think this is the best part of this story though. Is discussing stuff like this. Anyway, let's continue this. It's fun. What do you mean useless? Let's see. What do you mean useless? I think he's pointing out that Ava's wrong. Or what do we got? Jessica looked up at me, hanging on to my every word. Aunt Ava's expression was as confident as ever. Useless. What is it? Battler-kun. Tell me.
一方からしか見られないから、夏日おばさんしかありえないって思い込んじまうのさ。
You're only convinced it was Aunt Nazi because you're only looking at the case from a single angle.
別に夏日おばさんを擁護するわけじゃねえが、そんなハッタリのチェックメイトじゃ。
It's not like I'm defending her. But that bluff of a checkmate isn't gonna fly.
レシートを軸にした推理はまずまずだとは思う。
I think your reasoning regarding the receipt is passable.
筋は悪くない。
It's not a bad thread of logic.
だが、俺の採点じゃせいぜい65点ってとこだ。
I'd only give it a grade of 65 at
こ
best.
れが答案なら、居残りで補習ってとこだぜ。
If that were an exam, it'd be bad enough to get you extra lessons in detention, right? Ooh.
あら、じゃあレシートで封印されている扉をどうやって破ってお父様を失踪させられるというの？ 私の説以外に。
Well, how do you think anyone could break through the door sealed by my receipt and make father disappear other than by my theory?
エヴァおばさんの説は確かに面白い。
Well, it's true, your theory is an interesting one.
そして、その説以外に、じい様が失踪できる方法がないって言い切れるなら。
And if you could say for sure there was no way to make grandfather
最
disappear,
終目撃者である夏日おばさんが黒であると確かに言い切れるだろう。
then you'd probably be able to prove that the last person to see him, Aunt Natsuhi, was guilty.
だが、夏日おばさんが無実で濡れ衣である可能性が残っている以上、
However, since
そうだと断言することはできねえ。
However, since there is still a possibility she's innocent and these accusations are false, we can't be sure about that. Okay.
ならバトラ君は夏日姉さん以外の誰にお父様を失踪させられたというの？
Then, Battler-kun, are you saying someone other than Natsuhine-san made grandfather disappear?
姉さんしかありえないのよ。
It's impossible for anyone else to do it.
私のレシートがそれを証明してしま
My
った
receipt
わ。
proved that, right?
一度目に書斎に訪れた夏日姉さん。
After the first time she visited the
そして
study,
二度目に私と訪れるまでの間、書斎は完全に密室で密室開封後には失踪している。
and until the second time we visited it together, the study was a perfect closed room, and when the seal was broken on the closed room, he was already missing.
これで夏日姉さんが犯人じゃないというなら、どんなトリックがあるっていうの？
If that doesn't prove she's a culprit, what kind of trick could they have used?
だから65点なんだよ、エヴァおばさん。
Like I said, Ava, only 65 points. Like I said, Battler hadn't spoken this whole scene, so presumably someone was going to interject because Jessica and George were involved, so it had to be either Battler, who would come up with an interjection, or Maria, who would randomly point something out, and I think Maria's not the kind of person to engage in these debates other than to shout some obvious point out that's a gaping hole.
じゃあここでチェス盤をひっくり
Let's try spinning the chessboard around, shall we?
どうやって外部からじい様を失踪させるかじゃない。
The question isn't how someone managed to make grandfather disappear from the
どうや
outside.
って内部からじい様が失踪するかって考えるんだ。
You should think about how grandfather disappeared from the inside.
扉にはレシートが挟まれていたから使用されていない。
The door had the receipt stuck in it, so it couldn't have been
窓
used.
も出ることはできても外側からは施錠できず、しかもエヴァおばさんは書斎を訪れた時に窓の施錠を確認している。
Yep. So the door had the receipt stuck in it, so it couldn't have been used. He also couldn't have gone through the window because you can't lock it from the outside. And when Aunt Ava visited the study, she checked to make sure it was locked. So the windows were already locked, therefore he didn't go through the window, although you could say she threw him out the window and then locked it. But they were already locked, and they were already locked when she came back in.
だ
Right?
から窓も使用されていない。
The window wasn't used.
その
Okay.
時点だが、確かに書斎は密室だった。
At that point, the study really was a closed room. Sorry, can we repeat that? Okay. He couldn't have gone through the window because you can't lock it from the outside, and when Aunt Ava visited it, she checked to make sure it was locked. Could she not have thrown him out the window, locked the door, and then left when she put the receipt in? Question mark? Just asking that question. So the window wasn't used. I don't think that solves the window problem, but alright. At that point, the study really was a closed room.
これは認めるしかない。
We have to accept this. So I think he's working off the assumption that Grandpa was alive when the paper was in the door. Alright.
だがしかし、書斎は永遠に密室だったわけじゃない。
The study didn't remain a closed room forever.
レシートの封印さえ解かれれば、扉は使用可能になり、脱出可能になる。
Yeah, no, yes. I'm aware that Battler isn't trying to accuse everyone because he's suspicious that the wish exists and he's not positive that a 19th person exists. So he's like, I can't accuse anyone while I don't know if a 19th person exists. That's what Battler's been doing in the setup before this scene, right? Once the seal created by the receipt was removed, it's possible for someone to escape by the door.
つまり、夏日おばさんがどうやってじい様を失踪
In
させ
other
たか
words,
じゃ
the
ない。
question isn't how Aunt Natsuhi made Grandfather
どう
disappear.
やってじい様は書斎を脱出したのかって考えるんだよ。
We need to think about how he was able to escape.
じい様の書斎はただの書斎じゃねえんだよな。
Okay. Grandfather's study isn't an ordinary study, right?
源氏さんの話じゃ、トイレからキッチン、ベッドルームまであるちょいとした家並みじゃねえか。
Grandfather's study isn't an ordinary study, right? According to Genji, it has a toilet, a kitchen, even a bedroom, almost like a little house.
例えば、ベッドの下にでも潜って隠れたら、
For
おばさん
example,
たちは部屋からいなくなったと思い込めるぜ。
what if he hid under the bed and the two of you only thought he was
エヴァお
missing?
ばさんもそこまで調べてきたわけじゃねえだろ。
Aunt Ava, even you didn't check that far, right?
そして、おばさんたちは失踪したと思い、階から戻る。
And then the two of you go back down the stairs thinking he's not
この
there.
時レシートはもうない。
At that point, the receipt's already gone.
じい様は密室である間は部屋に隠れ続け。
In other words, if Grandfather hid in his room the whole time, it was a closed
エヴァお
room.
ばさんたちをやり過ごした後に部屋から脱出することで、この密室を破ることができ
And
る。
escaped after letting the two of you past him, we can crack this closed room right open.
何よそれ。
What are you talking
ど
about?
うしてお父様がそんな妙なことをして部屋を抜け出さなきゃならないの？
Why would Father escape the room in a bizarre fashion like that?
口頭無形にも程があるわよ。
Don't be absurd. Now you're claiming motive? You shouldn't claim motives like that.
ああ、口頭無
It
形か
might
も
be
な。
absurd.
だが、それでも、夏日おばさんが濡れ衣かもしれない可能性は示してる。
It shows there's a possibility Aunt Natsuhi is being falsely
エ
accused.
ヴァおばさんのレシートは完璧じゃね
Your receipt wasn't
え。チェ
perfect?
スで
Okay.
言えば、チェックくらいにはなったろ。
In chess we call that
だ
check,
が、
but this
チェッ
isn't
クメイトじゃ
checkmate.
ねえ。そして、俺が最高に気に入らねえのは、
Okay.
それを夏日おばさんに釈明しろと迫って、それができなきゃ黒だって断定しようとしたエヴァおばさんのその論法さ。
Oh, that's typically how Ava operates, Battler. Yes. The thing that pisses me off is how you're pressuring Aunt Natsuhi to explain it and then claiming she must be guilty if she doesn't. Yep, that's how Ava and her husband operate.
それがまかり通るってんなら。
Then, if you want to go down the road, why don't you let
バ
me?
トラここでもう一回、チェス盤をひっくり返させてもらおうじゃねえ
Why
か。
don't you let me spin the chessboard around one more time? How many times are we gonna use this spin the chessboard metaphor? Dear God.
エヴァおばさん。あんた
Probably a
の
lot
論法
this
による
route,
な
let's
ら
be
よ。
honest. Aunt Ava, according to your own
あんた
argument,
と秀吉おじさんが昨日親父たち6人を殺害してからのこのことゲストハウスに帰ったんじゃないってことを
according to your own
この場
argument,
で
just
釈明
explain
して
to
もらわなく
us
ちゃならねえぜ。
why you and Uncle Hideyoshi couldn't have killed those 6 last night and then casually returned to the guest house. Good argument, I suppose.
夏日おばさんに釈明を強いたんだ。
You've been forcing Natsuhi to explain. Okay. Because we can turn around and say that you're trying to frame her for this murder. That works, right?
あんたにはも
I'm
ち
sure
ろ
you
ん
can prove your own innocence, right?
自身の潔白を釈明できるんだろうな。
Okay, try this one.
じいさまの遺産が全部転がり込むエヴァおばさんよ。
Yeah, explain your innocence now that all of Grandfather's wealth magically plopped down right into your hands. I mean, he's dead, and all of the other people who could inherit his wealth are dead, so you're getting 100% of it right now. It's quite curious that Grandfather disappeared, as well as everyone who could claim his inheritance. No one said that yet, so justify how you're not the murderer when you're the only one who's done all this. And she's gonna say, well, it's a frame job. Can't say it's a frame job without evidence here. That's a good call. You're like, well, she can say you're framing her, you can say she's framing her, and the person who has all the advantages coming out of this is Eva, so by motive, Eva's looking bad. Then you'd have to have a better defense. Alright.
そうだぜ。エヴァおばさんだって十
You're
分怪
suspicious
しいじゃない
yourself?
かよ。
Enough yourself, aren't you? Of course, that's why she's deflecting suspicion. Unfortunately, Jessica, come on. Please tell me she can at least be a fair winds, or, she can at least be helpful in fair winds. The winds are at her back now. Can she say something like, you're the one who has all the motive and everything to gain from all these people dying? No one in your family's dead. Isn't that weird? Everyone else here has lost someone, and everyone who could inherit stuff gone. Let's see if she has a good argument at this point. I'd like to see that from Jessica.
母さんがじいさまの最終目撃者だから怪しいって言うなら、
If you say mom's suspicious because she's the last person to
エ
see
ヴァおば
him,
さんだって父さんたちの最終目撃者じゃ
what
ないか。
about you? The last person to see dad and every single other person who's died for absolute certain. That's a good point. I actually like that argument, Jessica. Nobody's brought that up, but presumably everyone was alive at the point they went to bed, and then no one saw them since alive. They could have killed everyone in the dining room. They could have all been discussing things in the dining room, murdered everyone, and then left. It's a good point. I do kind of like that, Jessica. I almost forgot about that one.
バトラーの言う通りだぜ。自分たちは殺してないってことを証明してみせろよ。
Like Battler said, prove you two weren't the ones who killed them.
僕
I
も
mean, that's two
お
people.
母さんの推理は少し勇み足だと思うな。
Mother, I think your reasoning was overeager. George is biased, but unwilling to enter into direct conflict with his mother unless she looks bad. Okay. That's what I'm seeing about this statement, because he was supporting her. He was like neutral but biased in favor of her at the start of the argument and made very little commentary. So which means he's probably unwilling to directly oppose her unless someone has a strong front. Okay.
レシートの件は
Or a strong like
確か
argument
に
to
重
oppose
要
her.
なヒントだと思う。
I'm sure the receipt was an important hint.
でもそれはバトラ君の言う通り、
But like Badler said,
夏
it's
日
not
お
enough
ば
to
さんが
prove
何
Nazi
が
was
しかの犯人である
responsible.
ことを断定できるものじゃない。僕たちは等しく全員が容疑者なんだ。
We're all equally suspicious.
夏日おばさんだけが責められる道理はない。
It's not right for only Aunt Natsuhi to be persecuted.
誇り高きお父様が床に這いつくばってベッドの下に。
Our proud father crawling under his bed.
そんな誰事で説明がつくと思って。
He calls like some nonsense like that an explanation. It's not a very good explanation. I'll give her that.
それならエヴァおばさんが先
Explain
に説明し
first.
ろ
You
よ。
killed everyone else. Explain it.
特によ、誰がどうやって殺して、そして自分が関
Who
わって
killed
いない
those
という
six?
証拠
How?
を示してみろってんだ。
Yep. Explain exactly who killed all 6 of those people, how, and then show us proof you weren't involved. I guess it turns out Jessica is a decent Fairwinds support. All right. As she's sticking on her, she's on point, and we need an explanation. Keep going. This would be her asthma, by the way. This is the first time it's shown up, but she is noted in her profile to have asthma. Yeah, milady. Jessica suddenly started coughing. At first I thought she was just choking after yelling too loud, but before long I realized how painful it looked. Jessica kept coughing and choking, down on her hands and knees.
ジェシカ、しっかり。
Jessica, hang
患
in
者
there.
先生。
Doctor?
ジェシカさん、吸入器を早く。
Your inhaler quickly. Obviously. She should know that.
私が持ってきているのがあります。
Wait, I have one with me. Dr. Nanjo pulled out a bronchodilator inhaler from his own bag, which was lying on the sofa, and handed it to Jessica. Come to think of it, didn't Jessica sometimes break into violent coughing fits 6 years ago and have to use that? 6 years ago, though, I never saw Jessica look like she was in this much pain.
兄貴、ジェシカってこんなに喘息ひどかったっけ？
Nikki, was Jessica's asthma always this bad?
ここ数年でだいぶ悪くなったんだよ。
ベアトリーチ
It's not the same as it was. It's gotten worse over the last
大
few
丈夫
years.
な時はいいんだけどね。
It's no problem when she's
突然
normal.
発作が来ると咳が止まらなくなるんだよ。
When an attack comes suddenly, she can't stop coughing anymore. I know 2 people with asthma, and they're typical. Having spoken to them, I knew one person in college, and I asked how they ran, because he didn't seem to have any trouble jogging, and his response was you can just hold your breath for a little bit and it'll go away. Or you just hold your breath until the attack ends and you're usually fine. And so he never has to act awkwardly because he just sits there, waits it out a bit, and keeps running, and it's not actually impeding his running. So I was like, oh, you have asthma. I was like, asthma, you have an inhaler? And he's like, no, I don't have one. I don't carry it around on me. I'm like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah, when I run, I can kind of just like hold my breath for long periods to disrupt the coughing fit. And otherwise, he just ignores it. So I guess it must be an exceptionally bad version of asthma. And that's my assumption. As I've never seen someone have like a crazy ass coughing fit, and I know a few people who've had asthma.
お嬢様
I will assume that it's just a bad version because even battlers noted it. Milady, your medicine? Okay. I assume it's just for convenience, or because it's like maybe a little bit painful or something. I've only known like 3-ish people in my life with asthma. And they didn't typically have like tremendous coughing fits. 2 of them didn't even have an inhaler or keep it on their person. The 3rd one did, but I didn't know the 3rd one very well. So I'll just assume this is closer to what they were like, because they actually kept one on them. Taking the inhaler from Cannon, she used it with a practiced hand. It looked like her throat would still itch for a while, but she had it under control.
大丈夫かよ、ジェシカ。
You're right, Jessica? Pity we just got all the pressure off Ava due to plot power, but it is what it is.
びっくりしたぜ。
You scared me. No big deal.
大したことねえよ。心配すんじゃねえぜ。
Don't worry about it. Alright. Beads of sweat covered her whole body and she couldn't hide her rough breathing, but it looked like her sudden attack had calmed down for now. The disturbance made the dangerous atmosphere until now seem slightly unfocused. But that's fine. The kind of battle of mutual suspicion is completely unnecessary. When you think about it, finding allies for each other and looking for a culprit is probably meaningless. No, I think you should keep applying pressure to Ava until she snaps. That would be more interesting, but plot reasons, we calm down. Alright. After all, we're just powerless, ordinary people, and when the police come tomorrow, they'll employ cutting-edge techniques and investigate the case thoroughly. Solving all the riddles and arresting the culprit. It's a bit of a waste to make the accusation of Ava and not actually go forward with it. And apply any real pressure to try and get her to work her brain around who it could actually be. Or how she's not guilty. Because that would give us more information. As they claimed they saw them and then went to bed and then no one saw them ever again. And that actually gives you a lot of opportunity to kill 6 people. Perhaps battlers right after all?
夏日姉さんが疑わしいように私たちも
As
疑わし
Nazi
さを
is
拭い
suspicious.
ていな
I
い
can't ignore the fact that I'm suspicious too. Even more suspicious because you put the paper in the door? No one brought that up though. I like that
そ
one.
れを今議論し合うのは確かに不毛ね
Arguing about that now will surely be unproductive.
明日警察に全てを任せれば済むだけ
Everything
の
will be
話
fine if we
よ
leave it to the police tomorrow.
でもバトラ君だって知りたいんじゃないの
Don't you want to know too, Battler King?
犯人を
Who's the culprit?
大切な人を失った痛みを思い知らせてやるために1秒でも早く知りたいんじゃない
Don't you want to let them know the pain you feel from losing someone precious to you as soon as possible? I mean, I would actually argue that Natsuhi couldn't have been the killer because of the paint or whatever on her door handle. That's a pretty good argument for her not killing anyone. If you search her room and don't find any of that, then you're probably okay.
それは否定しないです。
I won't deny that.
これだけの上等を決めてくれやがった野郎を。
Even one day would be too long to let the wonderful bastard who's behind this go. That would be a game-like argument, though. Because in real life, you could hold the door open and then paint it and then go into the room. But in video games, that's usually like a video game argument. Where it's like, there's something they're too stupid to do, but they did it this way.
でも、だからといって、
Doesn't
18
mean
人
I want
の
to
中
suspect
の
one
誰かを
D18.
疑いたくはない。
Yeah, he's still on the, I don't know if there's 19 people here.
さっきはああ言ったが、俺はエヴァおばさんだって疑いたくない。
Even though I said what I said earlier, I don't want to suspect you, Ava. Yep.
俺にとってのエヴァおばさんは、ちゃめっ気があって、いつも楽しくさせてくれる最高
Me,
の
you're
お
an
ばさんだ。
awesome aunt who's fun and playful. Yep.
そんなおばさんと、こんな罵り合いはしたくね
I don't want to trade insults with an aunt
え。
like
ここにいる
that.
誰だって、そんなことは望んでねえはずさ。
I wouldn't want to do that with anyone here. Yeah, so I think we're reaching the end of the scene. As I predicted, I didn't think anyone would die. Alright. I mean, I said, we're certainly not losing most people. There's a couple people who it wouldn't matter, but I didn't think anyone would die because it looks like false tension. Alright. I wouldn't want to do that to anyone here, right? Everyone?
バトラ君に同じ
I feel the same as
意
Battler.
味のない罵り合いだね。
It's pointless to trade insults.
多分これだけの人数が朝から一ところにずっと集まってるから。
It's probably just stress built up because so many people have been crammed into one place since morning.
でしょうな。
Probably.
無理もないことです。
It's only
言っ
natural.
てできるものではありませんが、なるべく皆さんリラックスしましょう。
May not be my place to say it, but I think we should relax as much as possible.
Eva,
Ava.
わしらも頭を冷やすべきとちゃうか。
I think we'd best cool our heads too.
レシ
Alright.
ートの件は確かにお父さんの失踪を探る上で重要な手がかりになると思
The
うで。
receipt's a big clue for figuring out how grandfather disappeared. Or how father
警
disappeared.
察が来たら話すといいやろ。
We should tell the police about it when they come.
そうね
That's right.
そう、
Right.
レシートの一件でつい
I
鬼
felt
の首を
triumphant
取
when I
ったよ
figured
うな
out
気持
that
ちに
part
な
with
っ
the
ちゃったの
receipt.
ね。
It's the third story and locked from the inside. Okay. I don't know the answer to that one. Third story locked from the inside is a pretty tough solution. Third story with the windows locked from the inside, I mean, is a tough one.
確かに夏日姉さんだけを疑うのはフェアじゃないわ。
It isn't fair to only suspect Natsuhine-san, right?
私たちだって等しく疑
We're
わしい。
just as suspicious.
でもね、バトラ君。
Actually, you seem more suspicious because Natsuhi lacks a motive, but you had opportunity and motive to kill a lot of people, but she had opportunity to kill one person and no motive to kill that person, which is bad. You have two components. Opportunity and motive, right? That's your components for suspicion. And then proof of guilt is, of course, your follow-up.
レシートの話だけは
At least the
本
part
当
about the
よ。
receipt is real, right? I'm not convinced the receipt's real. I know she said the receipt's real, but I'm not convinced of what people say that isn't visible from our first-person perspective. So, anything that's not done from our perspective, if someone accused me that I'm suspicious of it, because there's a non-zero chance people are lying. Although we can take the, like, magic... We know that Higurashi had magic in it, and magical entities, and we don't know at what point they'll be introduced or utilized. So, it's fair to say that it could be Beatrice or it could be a person. Right? It could be either of them. So, Ava lying is, like, a real possibility. They've had people lie before or do crazy shit that made, like, almost no sense. So let's see how this goes.
これ
Part about the receipt's real. Don't forget
忘れ
it.
ないでね。
I'm remembering your receipt. but I'm also
そ
suspicious
して
of
こ
it.
れがどういう意味を持つか
Think
も
deeply
う
about
一
what
度
it
よ
means
く
one more
考
time,
えてみて
okay?
ね
Aunt Ava and Hideyoshi stood up. It looked like they planned on leaving the parlor.
結局私たちはこんな推理ごっこしても意味はないのよ
In the end, it's pointless for us to keep playing
だってどう
detectives.
せ警察が全て明かして
After all,
く
the
れるんです
police
も
will
ん
reveal all anyway. That's right. Even if we don't play this game, the typhoon will pass, and when those lively seagulls return to the harbor, everything will settle itself. That's right. If you think about it, this kind of crime is completely trivial. It'll definitely be resolved, even if we do nothing. When the seagulls cry... Oh no. Umineko. Oh no. Oh no.
これ以上
A
ナタ
title
姉さん
drop.
も私の顔を見ていたくはないでしょ
Natsuhine-san, I take it you don't want to see my face anymore?
私も同じよ
I feel the same.
確か姉さんは昨日ゲストハウスに帰らなくて済むようにって客室を用意してくれたのよね
If I remember correctly, yesterday you had some rooms prepared for us in the mansion that we wouldn't need to go back to the guest house, right? Thank you for reminding me, Ava. I know I pointed this earlier. Okay, we don't have to play this game? Yeah, let's turn off the computer and stop playing. No more videos. Umineko is solved, guys. The cops got this. I was gonna say, I think I said this earlier, but what is the proof they actually went back to the guest house? Or what is A, the proof they went back to the guest house? We haven't actually seen them come from the guest house. And B, how did they get to the guest house when the doors were locked? Without any of the servants noticing them. 2 questions. How did they get to the guest house? The doors were locked. The doors were locked, so how did they get to the guest house? Either into the guest house and out of the mansion. And how did the doors lock themselves again? Without the servants noticing. That makes me think Ava's lying about that. Might be lying about that. There's a chance she is, or there's a chance someone's lying about, like, whether or not the doors were locked, right? Like, it's really weird. What was our evidence for them being in the guest house? Could she be playing dumb here? I mean, this is my weird confusion where I was like, the adults are in the house is locked down, and they're all, and then these ones are randomly in the guest house, despite the fact that like all evidence before the evening passed pointed to them all being in the mansion for their own rooms. Anyway.
あそこはバスもトイレもあるし鍵もチェーンもかかる
Those should each have a bath and toilet, a lock as well as bath and a toilet as well as a lock and a chain to secure the
横
door.
になれるベッドもあるし主人もマリアちゃんとチャンネル争いをせず
There's
に
the
テレ
bed
ビ
to
を
lie
見
on,
る
and my
ことも
husband will be
でき
able to
るわ
watch TV without having to fight with Maria-chan over which channel to watch, right?
お好きになさるといいで
Do
しょう
whatever you want.
でもくれぐれも用心を
She said Genji would confirm and met them in the guest house, but we haven't actually asked him to confirm that. Yes. But I'd say, how did they get out? How did they get out? They left around the time of the murders. They left around the time of the murders, okay? Like, they leave around the time of the murders, and they didn't say who they saw or who was on, like, well, obviously they know who's on night shift now because there's fucking bodies, but like, do they kill everyone and then go say hi to Genji? Like, even if Genji says they came there, that only proves that they left the house, not how they locked the house. So, like, okay, they came back, so we can say they killed everyone and then locked the house up after themselves? That seems weird. Alright. Like how the... Yeah, presumably one of the dead servants let them out. Yeah, presumably the dead servants who are already dead let them out, which is weird. Like, the timing doesn't work for me. The servants get murdered around midnight. The servants get murdered around midnight, and then after midnight they come out. Like, that would be my leading philosophy, is like, they're the only ones who had the... Since Natsuhi, we have a first-person perspective on her. We know she's not the killer, so we're left with servants Well, we're left with servants, supernatural, or these two, right? And well, presumably someone else could have gone and done that, I guess. One of the kids. They were all sleeping in the room, so it seems unlikely. Alright, do whatever you want. Be sure to be cautious.
ありがそして余計なお世話
Thanks, Nason. And mind your own business.
姉さんはみんなの監視をよろしくね
I'll be counting on you to keep an eye on everyone, alright?
犯人はこの中に必ずいるんだから
Because the culprit's definitely here.
そして姉さんも自分が監視をされていることをお忘れなく
Make sure you don't forget to keep an eye on yourself, too.
捨て台詞はそれで十分ですか
Have you finished taking your parting shots?
じゃあね夏日姉さん
I'm done. See you, Nason.
源氏さん夕食になったら呼んでね
Genji, let us know when it's time for
それ
dinner.
までチェーンをかけて閉じこもってるわ
Until then, we'll lock ourselves in with the chain.
源氏カノ
Genji,
お
Ken,
二人を客室までお送りを
escort them to the guest room.
結構よ送り狼なんて嫌
We'll
だ
be
もん
fine. I hate shady
む
escorts.
しろ私たちが部屋に行くまで誰もこの部屋を出ないでくれる方が安心
I'd be more comfortable if nobody leaves this room until we reach
ジョー
out.
ジ行くわよ
Let's go, George.
僕は
I'll stay here
こ
with
こでみん
everyone.
なといるよ。
ジョージ
George?
この部屋に犯人がいるのよ
The culprit's in
そ
this
んなとこ
room?
ろにいるつもり
You want to stay in a place like that?
この部屋を出るということは親族の誰かを疑うのと同じことだよ。
Leaving this room is the same as suspecting one of my relatives. And I
あ
don't
んな
believe
恐ろし
someone
い
would
こと
do
が
that.
できる人間が親族にいるなんて信じない。
ジョージあ
George.
なたからも言ってやってよ
Darling, tell him to.
ジョージももう一人前の男
George
や
is already an adult. He's 23, right?
そのジョージの仁義がこの部屋から出えへん言わせるならそれも勝手やろ
If his code tells him not to leave this room, it's up to him.
好きにさせたれ
Let him do what he wants.
父さん、
Father. Hideyoshi acting in George's favor over Ava's? Or possibly acting neutral? Yeah, about to turn 23. Yep. Yeah, Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi left. The only voice that called after them was the sound of the rain. Scene end. That was a long scene. That was an interesting scene. You got to see how they were arguing, how there's some mounting pressure. Nothing actually got solved. What it is what it is. The parlor was buried underneath a savage atmosphere. When I looked at the clock, I was surprised to find it was already evening. Had we really spent that much time worrying about needless things, talking with each other, fighting with each other? Wasting time? Yes. Feeling bored, I started scratching at my head when Maria and I made eye contact. I was a bit surprised since I thought she was completely immersed in the TV.
今なら信じるぜ。
I believe it now. Oh?
手紙も殺人もすべてベアトリーチェの仕業だ。
The letter, the murders, everything. It was all Beatrice.
いや、むしろ頼むからそうだと名乗り出てほしいぜ。
In fact, I almost feel like begging her to come out and take credit for it.
19人目の仕業ってことにさせてくれ。
I want it to be the work of a 19th
じゃ
person.
なきゃ俺たち18人はいつまでも互い疑い合わなくちゃな
Otherwise,
ら
the
ねえ。
18 of us keep having to suspect each
これ
other.
なら19人目の存在を信じる方が
I think believing in a 19th person is better than that.
扉も窓も開けずにじいさまを外へ連れ出すなんてベアトリーチェならお茶の子さいさいなんだろう。
Bringing grandfather outside without opening the doors or windows must be a piece of cake for Beatrice, right? I have a question. Did we thoroughly search the study? How thoroughly did we search the study? Like here's an easy one. This one might make Natsuki suspicious, but let's assume that you broke into the room and murdered him and stuffed him in a cabinet. Is that possible? Just a question. Stuff him into a wardrobe or a cabinet, okay? Real easy. He's a rich guy. They have big closets. Stuff him into the big-ass closet or wardrobe he has. He inevitably has because he's rich as fuck. Boom. Body in the room. They couldn't find him because he was already dead in a closet or a drawer or something. He's an old guy. He's probably pretty frail. If you're not afraid to break a few bones, you can probably fit him into a pretty small compartment. Yeah, Battler's argument was that he was hiding under the bed. His corpse could have been there. Yeah, they didn't look there. I'm surprised they didn't search that room thoroughly for him. Like, and I mean fucking thoroughly. After this, if they're like, well, he's dead and it's a locked room, check everywhere. Verify that he's not dead or hiding somewhere. Now, I think he's dead, but they didn't verify that he's dead either, so. They haven't seen a body. They're assuming he's still dead, right? So, check for the body. Yeah, it's got to be a piece of cake for Beatrice, right? Bring him outside without opening the doors or windows. Maria, after taking a single short breath, hung her head and then raised her face again. Oh, the ominous music. The wind over the sound of the water. That's right, it's ominous Maria's time. Locking a door is useless against a witch. Beatrice is familiar with all 72 demons. 33rd ranked Gap gives the power to instantly carry the desired person to any location. Her taking a person out of any closed room isn't hard at all, you see. Witches sure are incredible. Tell her if she feels like committing another crime to do it in a way that no human could. Make me believe that a 19th person, a witch, exists. Alright. If I meet her, I'll tell her. I'm drinking up. I did just get some more water. Delicious. Crap, nothing made sense to me for a while now. Just when I want to believe in a 19th person, I deny it. And when I want to believe there's 18, I deny that too. Even though I want there to be more than 18 people, I can't accept the existence of that 19th person. In short, even though there are more than 18 people, there are less than 19. The number of people in this mansion is less than 19, but greater than 18. The number of people can't be represented by an integer. However, it's impossible for there to be anything after the decimal point. You should be able to show the number of people with anything, or shouldn't be able to show the number of people with anything but an integer, and yet it's less than 19 and greater than 18. I don't get it. How do you explain the fraction less than 1? It's no wonder. The 19th person was something that couldn't be seen. That's why, since you can only write the number of people as an integer, you couldn't see that person, which cannot be seen, because Beatrice had no body and is therefore invisible. Is there a 19th person or not? Does the witch exist or not? It's less than 19 and greater than 18. The witch exists somewhere in that X, where X is the number of people. Alright, time skip. We're going from 4 in the afternoon to 6. Or, 7, doy. 7, alright. The uncomfortable atmosphere continued even after those two left. It was thick with the idea that simply thinking about the culprit's identity would be the same as deciding who to suspect. It had begun to feel like discussion of the case was itself taboo. So no one mentioned the case, at least out loud. However, those thoughts were what filled our minds. All that we couldn't say aloud made our heads feel like they were going to explode, so at least on the outside the parlor once again regained its calm mood. Everything was left unsettled. Feels like the rain's gone later. When's dinner, by the way? It's like 7. Huh? Still pouring down. Oh. Even if it did stop, there's no boat on the island. But it'd be nice if that boat came quickly tomorrow. I've had enough of this Western Mansion vacation. So are we gonna get to the next day and it's still gonna be typhoon and they're gonna be like, oh fuck? Is that when we start taking things seriously?
明日船はいつ来るのかな。
Mom, when will the boat come tomorrow?
本来なら帰りの船は今日の3時に来てくれることになっていました。
Normally the boat to take them back would arrive at 3 today.
先方も台風が過ぎてから来直すと電話をしてくれたでしょうが、あいにく電話は普通ですから。
They probably sent us a phone call to say they would come after the typhoon passed, but unfortunately the phones aren't working.
でも向こうも子供の使いではありません。
There aren't children over there.
客人の方々
They were
の
told to
送
both
迎目
drop
的だと
off
教え
and
てありま
collect
す
our
が、
guests.
おそらく明日の朝一番で。
They'll likely arrive first thing tomorrow
多
morning.
分9時頃くらいに来てくれるでしょう。
Probably around 9, I believe. It was completely black outside. When I looked at the clock, I realized it was just past 7. So dark, yet so early. I was starting to get hungry. In the kitchen, Kumasawa was cooking enthusiastically. She laid out a variety of dishes, and while they didn't match the level of Goda's artful cooking, they were still quite gorgeous. It was an act of kindness from Kumasawa, who was trying to enliven everyone's low spirits with some food. Kumasawa wasn't nearly as talented as a professional cook, but she was far from unskilled. On the contrary, since she'd been brought up in a fishing village, the simple food she made was sometimes highly praised. Cannon arranged the food she had finished creating on plates under her direction. He also helped in the kitchen sometimes, but since he was rarely placed in the role, he was a little awkward, even though he tried his best. Self-conscious about the fact he couldn't cleverly arrange the food, Cannon's expression darkened slightly. Kumasawa smiled as though everything was fine, though.
綺麗に盛り付けられてますよ。
Arranged
カ
beautifully.
ノン君もお上手ですよ。
Cannon, aren't you skilled?
シャノン姉さんだったら
If it had been
も
Shannon,
っと綺麗に。
it would have looked better. Cannon stopped arranging the food for a bit and hung his head. Shannon was the one who assisted Kumasawa in her cooking. Tonight, Cannon was doing it instead. And as he remembered Shannon's face and her brutal end, he grimaced.
今は忘れなさい。
Forget that for now. Genji spoke kindly to Cannon as he advanced upon. Nanjo had escaped from the parlor once the mood grew sour, and Genji became his opponent in a game of chess upon Nanjo's request.
はい、
Yeah,
今は忘れます。
I will forget it for now. Indeed.
それがいいだろう。
It's probably for the best. Genji purposely refrained from facing Cannon as he spoke. He did so because he understood it might make things tougher on Cannon if he noticed someone was looking at his eyes. Nanjo also understood that and held back any thoughtless words.
金蔵さんもどこへ行かれたんで
I
しょ
wonder
う
where
か。
Kinzo-san is going.
ご無事だといいのですが。
I would hope he is safe, but
わかりません。
I do not know.
ただ、すべては親方様が望まれ、仕組まれたことのように思っています。
I believe everything proceeded as the master hoped and arranged for. Is he going to be the second victim? Or, I believe his first night was, first Twilight was 1 victim, there was 6 victim sacrifices, the next one was 1.
それを邪推することは、親方様にお仕えする家具には過ぎたことです。
I just trust things were going as the master hoped and arranged for would exceed my role as furniture in service to the master.
源氏さんは怖くないのですか？
Aren't you scared, Genji?
私には今夜まだ何か良くないことが起こるような気がして。
I'm frightened something bad will occur again tonight.
怖いことなど
You can check the epitaph in tips? Really? Oh, hold up, let's check that right away. The portrait epitaph? Sign me up, alright. Okay. Behold the Sweetfish River running through my beloved hometown. You who seek the Golden Land, follow the path downstream in search of the key. Okay. As you travel down it, you will see a village. At that village, look for the shore the two will tell you of. There sleeps the key to the Golden Land. What about the statue of the god? They pointed that out at the beginning of the story. I wonder if that's relevant. It's near the shore, right? The statue is near the shore? Anyway. Just thinking of the destroyed statue and wondering if it's going to be relevant again. Alright, the one who obtains the key must travel with the Golden Land in accordance with its rules. On the first Twilight, offer the 6 chosen by the key as sacrifices. On the second Twilight, those who remain shall tear apart the 2 who are close. Well, shit, we know who's dead. Alright. On the third twilight, those who remain shall praise my noble name. So, those who remain shall tear apart the two who are close. Who is close? Yeah, there was a Tori shrine on the nearby reef, but it vanished. Yep. I wonder if I don't know enough about Tori, but Tori's like those gates, right? Like the red gate? Are they called Tori gates? Hello. Yeah, the gates are called Tories. Yeah. Alright, so on the second twilight, those who remain shall tear apart the two who are close. Two who are close here. There's a pretty short list of people who are exceptionally close to each other right now. And that would be, Ava and her husband, right? So that's pretty straightforward. Fourth twilight is hedge and kill. Okay. Alright. Welcome working unit. Blah blah blah, the letters. And yeah, we ignore that. Okay. You have nothing to be afraid of. Oh, we know who's probably getting the axe next. I have nothing to be afraid of. I serve the Ashiromeya family, and that is all. Nanjo sighed through his nose and made a carefully considered move. Nanjo was slightly dubious. Could Genji possibly be thinking he'd be left out of this? He couldn't even imagine what was happening inside the mansion. But he definitely couldn't deny the possibility that Kinzo had devised something. If you liken the island to chess, Kinzo had opened the game, and as a result, 6 pieces had been defeated. Could it be that Genji was calm because he believed he alone was on the outside of the chessboard and therefore safe? Seems unlikely. Nanjo thought about it. Isn't everyone just a piece on this chessboard lined up equally without exception? Wasn't even Genji who'd gained more of Kinzo's trust than anyone? Who is confident of his position as Kinzo's only close friend? Just another piece laid out on the board?
Genji-san,
Truly frightened about tonight. I hope with all my heart we'll still be safe when tomorrow morning comes. Is there anyone else who's like considerably close? It doesn't seem like that. The guest room Ava and Hideyoshi moved into had originally been built to house guests before the guest house construction. So until a few years ago they'd stayed in those rooms every family commons and were very familiar with them. Alright. The room was just like a room at a hotel with a bedroom and a bathroom. Even though they were still shut in, it was far more comfortable than the parlor. Yes, it's true, you can relax more when you're alone with your family. Maybe it'd be better if everyone shut themselves in the guest rooms and locked the doors.
夏日姉さんが客間を出るなって威張り散らしてるんだもん。
She said no one could leave the parlor throwing her weight around.
誰も口答えなんてできないでしょ。
I'm sure no one will be able to talk back.
あの人、ずーっと冷や飯を食ってきたから、兄さんが死んでやっと天下が来たって張り切ってんのよ。
Always been treated so coldly. Now that Nissan's dead, she's getting all excited about finally having so much power. How does she have any power? Aren't you number 2? You should be leagues ahead of her.
まったく、ずうずうしいったら嵐の。
Seriously, how shameless can she be?
まあそう言うな。
Don't say that.
夏日さんもあれで結構頑張っとるんやで。
He's doing pretty well.
お前もそう突っかからんでもええやないか。
No need to jump on her like that.
さっきのレシートの件もあそこまでは言い過ぎやで。
About the receipt earlier, you went too far.
だって、
come on.
あそこで言わなかったら、もう言うタイミングがないんだもん。
If I hadn't said it there wouldn't be another good time to say it. Ava, sulking cutely and looking at the TV, sat alongside Hideyoshi, who was lying on the bed.
でも、こうして二人きりになるのはずいぶん久しぶりよね。
Till we haven't been alone like this for quite some time.
そうやな。
You're right.
思えばわしもお前も老けたもんや。
Come to think of it, both of us have gotten pretty
ジ
old.
ョージが生まれてから何もかもがあっという間や。
Since George was born, everything's gone by in the blink of an
本
eye.
当にあっという間よ。
It really has.
子供を作るの焦りすぎたかしら。
Were we too hasty, perhaps, in having a child? I wonder. Ava's eyes looked like they were staring off into the distance. Yeah, she thought of it as a once-in-a-lifetime chance. Her older brother Kraus had been unable to father a child for quite some time. 6 years passed after his marriage to Natsuhi without any signs of pregnancy, which didn't please Kinzo at all. Ava herself had thought that, since her name would be moved outside the register when she got married, it didn't matter whether a successor to the headship was born or not. And then, one day, she had a heavenly revelation. Or maybe the whisperings of the devil she had listened to in her greed. If she could give birth— oh no, why are we getting first-person perspective from her, and she's like, regretting her life's decisions? Oh boy, here we go. If she could give birth to a successor first, wouldn't she be able to remain in the family register? All that scheming makes time pass so quickly. Yeah. If things went well, might she have a chance to inherit the Yoshiromiya family herself? When she proposed this to Hideyoshi, he approved of it instantly. This wasn't because he also had greedy thoughts. For Hideyoshi, who had no close relatives, it was a chance for him to feel once more the long-forgotten thing called family. When they got married, he hasn't fussed over which last name they were to keep, and quickly agreed to have his name entered into the Yoshiromiya family register. It hadn't been easy to persuade Kinzo, but as his daughter, Ava knew Kinzo's personality well. So by choosing the time when Kinzo was most dissatisfied with Natsuhi, she was magnificently able to make him accept Hideyoshi as an adopted son-in-law. Looking at Hideyoshi, who achieved success after starting from nothing, Kinzo might have been a bit ashamed of himself, or seen a bit of himself. He quickly grew to like Hideyoshi and approved his transfer into the Yoshiromiya register. George would eventually become successor to the family. They raised him strictly with that purpose in mind. He'd been worth their while and grown into the fabulous young man who wouldn't disappoint no matter where he went. That's why he hadn't been permitted to fall in love with a servant like Shannon. When she'd learned Shannon was dead at the engagement, and the engagement was now invalid, though part of her had still been shocked by the gruesome scene, part of her had been relieved her dear George wouldn't be stolen by some servant girl.
私、クラウス兄さんのことが昔から嫌い
Hated
だ
Kraus
ったわ。
Nissan since long ago.
偉そうで威張ってて。
He's so full of himself.
自
Swaggering
分がやがては当主になるのだと自
proud
慢して
he'd
て。
one day become the head.
だからそれに一矢報いてやりた
I
かっ
wanted to get back at him.
た。でもそれは子供の頃の感情なのよ。
Was that a childish
でも
emotion?
その感情は結局自分の人生のほとんどを支配した。
In the end, it guided my entire life.
それだけならまだいい。
If that had been all, it would have been fine.
その感情は
But because of that,
あなたやジョージまで巻き込んで振り回してしまった。
it got both you and George involved. I used you.
エヴァ、備え自分を責めるな。
Ava, don't blame yourself for that. Hideyoshi got up and held Ava's shoulder. She could feel a warm understanding from him.
わしはな、自分の人生はもうとっくに折り返しに入っとる。
Oh, I reached the halfway point in my life long
でも
ago.
な、今日までの生活を後悔したことは一度もないで。
I have absolutely no regrets about how I've lived my
一
life.
度もや。
Not one.
エヴァと一緒で他の男どもじゃ味わえん楽しい
I think
人生になっ
Since
た
I've
と
been
思
with you,
っと
Ava, I've been able to relish an enjoyable life that other men never will.
戦争で身寄りを失ったわしに
This scene is Death Flag
もう一度
Central.
家
You
族の
don't
ぬくも
say!
りを教えてく
You
れ。
don't say! You don't freaking say! Like, every line they're saying is like, well, that's a death flag. Oh dear, this scene's a death flag. Oh dear, this sub scene's a death flag. And then that was after we looked up the fucking, like, lovers getting torn apart. Oh my god, they're like so dead. I said they were dead when they left, but it's like, it keeps getting worse. They're just like, we're throwing death, it's like, they can't stop vomiting death flags here. After I lost my relatives in the war, you reminded me what the warmth of family
だか
is.
ら後ろ宮の家には感謝しとるし、 わしの唯一の家だ。
I'm grateful to the Ishiromiya family and think of it as my only one.
わしとお前が歩んできた人生にな。
In this life I've led with you, not a single thing's been wasted.
なかった。今日までほんまに楽しい人生
It's
や
been a fun life up until today.
ありがとう
Thank you,
あなた
darling. Also, she didn't say. I'm pretty sure she said anata and not darling. Translation's nice. She uses something affectionate, and then in Japanese it's just like thanks you. Eva hung her head, burying her face in Hideyoshi's chest. Presumably, no one in the parlor could imagine this side of Eva existed.
感謝するのはわしや。
I'm the one who should be
今日
thanking
まで
you.
お前と一緒にいて後悔した日なんてあらへん。
Until today, there hasn't been a single day I've regretted being with you. At least they get to have the tender last moment rather than being unceremoniously slaughtered. I don't know. I feel like if Ava was unceremoniously slaughtered, I'd be kind of like, I guess that serves you right, bitch. But you know, that's just me. Everyone else suffering. I mean, Kyrie seemed alright. Shannon seemed alright. They got axed unceremoniously, so I don't mind if Ava dies. Alright, I should be the one thanking you. Until today, there hasn't been a single day I regretted being with you.
私もよ
Me too.
あなたと一緒になれ
I'm
てよかった
so glad to have you on my side.
ジョージももう立派な大人や。
They're dragging this scene out, goddamn. George is already a
わ
fine
しが
adult.
見張ってなくてもしっかり仕事ができる一人前や。
Even if I don't look out for him, he's a man who could do his job well on his
Yeah.
own. I wonder.
正月あたりをのんびりモルジブあたりで過ごさんか？
Around New Year's, do you want to go spend some time in the Maldives? It keeps getting
わ
worse.
しら二人水いらずや。
Just us? No one else?
いやよ
No way.
毎年年賀状の返礼で寝る暇もないとか言ってるじゃない
No way. Aren't you always saying you're so busy responding to New Year's cards you don't even sleep?
次の正月だけはなしや。
None of that this New
年
Year's.
賀状はみん。
I won't read New Year's
黙っ
cards.
て下のお年玉くじだけチェックするんや。
I'll just stay quiet and check to see if I won the New Year's lottery.
今年はカラーテレビくらい当てたいで。
It'd be nice if we won a color TV this year. Wait, doesn't he own his own company? Why does he care about a TV?
やだ
No way.
モルジブでお年玉くじのチェックなんてしたくない
I don't want to waste time checking the lottery while I'm in the Maldives.
じゃあそいつもなしや。
None of that
水
either.
いらずのんびりで。ジョージが生まれる直前の新婚時代の続きを
How's it sound,
ちょ
though?
っとしてみる
The two of us taking it easy like when we were newlyweds just before George was born?
それならいいわね
In that case, fine.
モルジブはええとこらしいで。
I hear the Maldives are wonderful. It keeps getting worse.
なんもない島に美しいサンゴ礁と水上コテージが並んでて
An island with nothing on it, surrounded by beautiful coral reefs and cottages lined up over the water.
新婚時代の続きっていつからなの
Like when we were newlyweds, you say? Starting when?
仕事納めしたらすぐや。
As soon as I finished up some
旅
business.
行店に聞いてみんとわからんが、多分大晦日前には
I won't know till I ask the travel agency, but probably before New Year's Eve.
いや
No way.
今
Right now?
すぐがいい
I want to go now. Ava nagged at his lips in a peevish yet flirtatious manner. The only sounds that fill the room were the distant voice of the announcer on the news, which Hideyoshi left on, and the obnoxious pounding of the rain against the window. Alright. Nightfall. There was a knock on the door and Genji entered.
奥様、
Madam.
お夕食の準備が
Dinner's
整
been
いまし
prepared.
た。
Well, they're not dead yet.
お食事はまたこちらで
You
よ
here again?
ろしいですか？
ええ
Yes.
ここへ運ばせなさい
Have it brought here.
南條先生はまだ厨房にいるのですか
Is Dr. Nanjo still in the kitchen?
はい。
Yes.
次の一手を熟考したいとおっしゃっております。
He said he wishes to carefully deliberate over his
ご
next
安
move
心を。他の
Not
使
worried,
用
he's
人たちとご一
with
緒
the
で
other
す。
servants.
源氏さんはじい様の相手ができるくらいチェスが強いもんな。
Genji's good enough at chess to be grandfather's opponent. Oh, so Genji's good at it. I figured that'd be the case. They're good
南
friends. Why
條
not?
先生よりも強いらしいぜ。
I hear he's even better than Dr. Nanjia, right?
そうなんだ。
That's right. Let's see how good he is.
昔相手をしてもらったことがあるけど、あれは勝たせてくれたのかな。
Long ago, he played against me, but he must have let me win. Probably.
マリア、もうすぐ飯だそうだぜ。
Mario, it sounds like it's gonna be time to eat
しかし
soon.
よく一日中テレビを見ていて飽きねえな。
Look at you. You've been watching TV all day and you haven't gotten bored. That's impressive. Honestly impressive. There's not usually a lot going on all day. On a, what is this, a Sunday? Holy shit.
いつもテレビいっぱい見てるから平気。
I'm always watching TV. I'm fine.
マリアちゃんはテレビっ子なんだね。
Arya-chan sure is a TV kid.
食事だから机の上を片付けないとダメ
It's
だ
coming.
ぜ。
We gotta clean up the table. It's not like they had a game of cards. Oh, here we go. Earlier we tore several pages out of Maria's notebook and there was a mess where everyone had been drawing together. I see. Jessica began cleaning that up rapidly. Still, everyone here really can draw. I'd never have guessed it.
源氏、エ
Genji.
ヴァさんたちにもせめて食事くらい一緒にしないかとお声をか
Ask
け
Ava
な
and
さい。
Hideyoshi whether they'd at least like to have dinner with us. Send one person with him. Send one person with him, please, so we don't have this be us again.
どうせ断るでしょうが。
Although they will probably turn us down.
かしこまりました
Certainly.
お父様の次はエヴァさんですか。
First father and now
つ
Ava.
くづく後ろ宮家の食卓には全員
Quite
が
hard to
揃
get
い
everyone
ま
at
せ
the
んね。
Yashiromiya dinner table. Natsuhi felt her headache start throbbing and lightly held her temples. My sympathies, Natsuhi. The distance from the kitchen to the parlor wasn't that great, so Genji had gone and come back by himself, but the guest room was a bit further away. Natsuhi warned him to avoid being alone when possible, and just now Nanju had also admonished him, saying it'd be better if he held a little more concern for his safety. Kanon accompanied Genji, and the two of them went to visit Ava and Hideyoshi in their guest room. Genji knocked on the door.
エヴァ様秀吉様
Ava-sama,
お
Hideyoshi-sama.
夕食の準備が整いました
Dinner has been prepared. He waited a short while for them to come out, but there was no response.
源氏様、これは
Look at this. The door handle has blood on it or whatever. Cannon pointed under the door. A western envelope had been inserted under it. Normally when something was inserted this way, it was interpreted as a message from someone outside to someone in the room. So since this might be a private note meant for Ava and Hideyoshi, it was not something Cannon and Genji were supposed to take interest in. But this western envelope, it was one of Kinzo's, the same kind as the one Maria had taken out last night and surprised everyone with. This is a red flag. The appropriate choice is to kick the door open or immediately unlock it.
間違いない
There can be no mistake.
親方様の封筒だ
It's one of the master's envelopes.
あるいは
Could it be? Even though this is one of Kinzo's envelopes, the letter Maria read aloud the previous night hadn't come from Kinzo. Genji continued knocking harder and called out in a loud voice.
エヴァ様
Eva-sama!
様
Eva-sama!
源氏でございます
It's Genji.
いらっしゃいますか
Are you there?
お返事をお願いいたしますエヴァ様
Answer, Eva. There was no response from inside. Sometimes when the servants went to call some guests for a meal, the guests would be sleeping so deeply they wouldn't wake up. In times like that, servants would stick a letter to the door to show that it was time to come out and leave the guest be. But despite that, Genji beat harder on the door and called out Ava's name. However, there was no answer. Cannon stuck his ear up to the door and held his breath, listening for sounds from the inside.
テレビの音らしきものが。
I hear something that sounds like the TV.
でも気配が感じられませ
I
ん。
don't hear anyone.
お部屋は空っぽかも。
The room might be empty. Genji took out a handkerchief and, careful not to touch it with his bare hands, gently pulled out the envelope that had been stuck under the door. It was sealed with deep red sealing wax. Without a doubt, the mark on the wax had come from this Ushiromiya family head's ring.
エヴァ様
Eva.
エヴァ様
Eva-sama! What do you got?
どうかお返事を
Please answer.
も
Yeah.
うお部屋にはいらっしゃいませんか
Are you still in your room? I'd be worried. There was still no answer. There was a chance those two were aimlessly walking around the mansion. This was the home Eva had grown up in. There was plenty of reason to think she'd gone out on a casual stroll. Yeah, I would believe that. Genji groped around in his pocket and pulled out the bundle of keys which contained the key that would open the guest room.
ケンジ様
Genji's... Cannon also understood what this meant. He's suspecting they're dead. That would sometimes unlock the door so they could go in and out, do things like make the beds, but only after they made sure the guests were out. To unlock the door for any other reason, and to do so when there's a chance the guests hadn't given permission and might still be in there, is an action unbecoming of a servant. But Genji had decided. If the only problem had been that his knock hadn't received a reply, he wouldn't have gone this far. But the envelope was doubtlessly one of Kinzo's, or rather one of the western envelopes of the Ishiromiya family head. After last night, the sender could be someone other than Kinzo, and if this letter had been sent by someone
エヴァ
else...
様申し訳ございませんお部屋を失礼させていただきます
Eva, my apologies, allow me to enter your room. After giving that final notice, he struck one of the keys from the bundle into the keyhole. There was the sound of the door unlocking, and after slowly turning the knob, he slowly started opening the door. What are we seeing? Are they dead already? Light seeped through the crack of the door. Were they in the room? Or had they forgotten to turn out the lights? Clank. It was the sound of the door chain being pulled tight. The chain had been secured. The chain couldn't be secured from the outside. So it proved they were in the room. The sound of the voices on the TV seeped out of the room. The lights, the chain, and the TV. All these made it clear they're in the room. But there was no sign of them. Genji called once again through the crack of the door. But there was no answer.
ケンジ様
Genji-san,
いかがしますか
what do we do? As part of the job, servants were able to unlock almost any lock in the mansion, but they had no way to open a door with a chain. The only way to get by the chain was to cut it. It was certainly not permitted as part of a servant's usual work. This is where I would close the door, lock it again, immediately run to tell them that I'm concerned for their well-being. Can we open the door? Can we cut the chain? And they'd be like, the chain exists! But we found this letter, or something like that. A creepy chill had already rushed up their backs. Cannon held his breath again as he tried to sense someone through the door, but even so, he wasn't able to sense anyone.
私は奥様をお呼びしてくる
I will call Madam in
彼女
return.
のチェーンの切断を
Cannon, cut the chain.
は
Yes. Cannon hurried away to get a cutting tool, and Genji called him to a stop.
待てカノン
Wait, Cannon.
厨房に戻り熊沢と行動するよ
Return to the kitchen and take Kumasawa with
う
you.
断じて一人で行動して
Do not act
はならん
alone.
はい
Yes.
かしこまりました
Certainly. It looked like Cannon was wondering why he had to do something so troublesome in the middle of this urgent situation. But Genji said it out of wariness. He didn't care what happened to himself, but in the worst case scenario, he didn't want anything happening to Cannon. In the kitchen, Kumasawa was piling food on the serving cart. Nanjo was waiting for Genji, apparently wanting to show him a move he'd finally thought of that might turn the tables on him. But Genji's appearance immediately told him something was wrong.
おやどうしましたか
What's happened, Genji?
南條先生申し訳ありませんがこの勝負は一度中断させてください
Dr. Nanjo, my apologies. Please allow this match to be suspended for the time being.
カノンはチェーンを頼む
Cannon, take care of the chain.
熊沢
Kumasawa,
食事の配膳は一時中断し
stop setting up for
カノ
dinner
ンと同
and
行す
accompany
る
Cannon.
私は奥様のところへ行
I will go over to Madam.
き南條先生もご一緒に
If you'd come with me, Doctor.
何かあったんで
Had
すか
something happened? Genji took Nanjo, who still didn't know what was going on, and quickly left the kitchen.
熊沢さん
Kumasawa-san,
申し訳ありませんが僕と一緒に来てください
my apologies, but please come with me.
何があ
happened,
ったんですかカノンさん
Well, you'll find out. Kumasawa said almost the same thing as Nanjo, unable to take in the situation, and chased after Cannon, who'd flown out into the hallway. Taking Kumasawa with him, Cannon went to a storage room and looked through the tools packed in toolboxes hanging over the walls, trying to find something that could be used to cut the chain.
何を探してるんですか
What are you looking
私も手伝いますよ
Can we help you?
ドアチェーンを切断するんです
We're cutting a door
大
chain.
きめの番線カッターは
Where's that large wire cutter?
ドアチェーンを
A door chain?
どうしてそんなことをするんです
Why
か
would you do something like that? Don't ask a stupid question you already know the answer to,
エ
Kumasawa.
ヴァ様たちのお部屋にチェーンが
A chain to Eva's and Hideyoshi's room.
中にいらっしゃるはずなのに お声をかけても返事がないんです。
Even though they should be inside, they didn't answer when we called them. It took Kumasawa some time to figure out how cutting the chain and Eva and Hideyoshi not answering were connected, but she did realize this was an urgent situation. A wire cutter or a giant garden shear or a saw? They're pretty, yeah. I mean, a wire cutter will do the trick. These aren't super heavy gauge chains, dude. A good wire cutter will work. These are door chains. They're just really inconvenient to push, right? You can theoretically break them, but it's like a lot of pain. Like unseat them, but like it's a lot of work. Yeah, she did realize it's urgent. Like you can break down the door, but like it's not really worth the effort. A cutter works fine. Just that one will probably do the trick. Cannon took down a very large wire cutter that had been hanging on the wall. It was called a cutter, but maybe it's easier to understand if we say it's shaped like a large pair of pliers. Cannon remembered once being warned this dangerous tool could easily cut through one of your fingers. He took that and rushed up the stairs. He already knew instinctively. He should fight for every minute, every second to open it quickly. Or perhaps it was already. Wait, please. Kumasawa was slow. Hurry. Kumasawa eventually caught up with him, gasping for breath on both hands on her knees. When Cannon changed his grip on the cutters and looked at the door, he let out struck speechless. What? What's this? Oh, that's curious. Now we know for certain they're dead. Kumasawa screamed weakly, at her face pallid. That was no surprise, because right there on this door, just like the magic circle that had been drawn on the shutter of the Rose Garden storehouse, there was another eerie shape drawn with a blood-like paint. However, it would be odd to call this a magic circle. It looks like a doorway. Because unlike what people would expect, it wasn't a circle with shapes drawn on it, but a slightly more complicated geometrical shape. However, these strange characters filling the gaps, which weren't from the alphabet, were the same as the ones on the magic circle on the shutter. But the thing that had Cannon struck speechless wasn't how eerie the magic circle was. It was that something like this hadn't been there a short while ago. First, he'd taken a trip to the kitchen, and after that he'd gone to the storage room to grab a tool and headed right back. Put those together, it couldn't have been more than 5 minutes. How could someone add something this creepy during that period of time, and as though it had just been drawn, almost like the door itself was bleeding? Several unsettling vertical lines slowly dripped down, getting longer and longer. Kumasawa's knees gave way and she sank down on the spot. If Kumasawa hadn't done this first, then Cannon surely would have wanted to. Beatrice-sama.
Beatrice-sama no shiwaza desu yo.
How horrid. Cannon gulped and then readied the wire cutter and approached the door. He didn't want to get close to this disturbing magic circle, and he really didn't want to touch the steadily dripping substance that looked like blood. But if he didn't get close, he wouldn't be able to cut the chain. Fighting this cold feeling, he gulped again, and after gathering his courage, he went closer, putting the wire cutter up against the chain. He then pressed with all his strength, managing to cut through the chain far more easily than he'd anticipated. The cut chain fell into 2 separate parts, which continued to clang as they swayed back and forth.
Kano-san.
Cannon. There's an envelope by your feet. And isn't that the master's? It looked like Kumasawa had noticed the western envelope at the bottom of the door, and that the sealing wax had been sealed with the head's ring. Cannon hesitated for a second over whether he should open the letter first or check inside the room, but he eventually decided on fulfilling his original purpose. Cannon pulled a handkerchief out of his pocket. This was so he wouldn't leave fingerprints on the door. If his worst fears were realized, the police would want to investigate this room too. He slowly pushed the door open. He was able to more clearly hear the sound of the television, which had been seeping out faintly this whole time.
Eva-sama.
Eva-sama? Eva was lying face up on the bed with her shoes still on? Kumasawa, who had fearfully entered after Cannon and was hiding behind his back, screamed a short eek again when she saw Eva like that. Her shoes had been the first part of her that he'd seen, so the oddness of wearing shoes in the bed was the first thing to strike him. But when her head shifted into his line of sight, Cannon couldn't help but let out a short scream like Kumasawa. Right in the middle of Ava's forehead, something had been placed? Something was growing there? No. Right in the center of her forehead. Was it an old-fashioned knife? That or some weapon like it was sticking out. Well, surprise, surprise, Ava's dead! At the base of where it was stuck in, blood dripped down, staining the sheets of the other side bright red. Kumasawa's knees gave way once more and she sank down on the floor. Her mouth kept flapping open and closed, but she couldn't even scream. These guys were asking for to be fucking murdered. Sorry. Ava was dead with some kind of weapon sticking out of her forehead. Both eyes were open wide and the image of the person who killed her must have been burned into them. But the only mouth capable of naming that person had been shut for all eternity. Even though her forehead was the last place they wanted to look, they couldn't tear their eyes from it. Right there, the weapon was stuck into her forehead, standing almost perfectly upright. And on the handle was a complicated design you wouldn't expect to see on an ordinary weapon. It could be summed up with the word occult. A vulgar object with a design that might have been of some demon. What about Hideyoshi-sama? Hideyoshi? Ava was on top of the bed, but the other bed was empty. Where was Hideyoshi? After taking a backwards glance at Kumasawa, still on her knees and stupefied, he checked the bathroom just in case. And the moment he opened the door, he was greeted by steam and the sound of the shower. The bathroom was the same familiar style as most hotel bathrooms. When taking a shower, waterproof curtains were used to keep water from flying out. The waterproof curtain was half open. God damn it, I can't hide things. Oh wait, does clear work? There we go. He dead. Same deal. That's quite the dagger. That's quite the stabby bit. So he's dead in the bath. Looks like he was having a bath, actually. You can see the water spilling over the edge under his chin. Well, this is a virtually bloodless death. Virtually, they got a single shot to the head and dead. The waterproof curtain was half open, and lying tumbled down in the bathtub was Hideyoshi, completely naked with both eyes open. Okay, I wasn't seeing those as eyes open, but alright. And pointing right at Cannon. Just like Ava, a weapon with a demon-like design was stuck into its forehead. Since his head had been under the shower's hot water this whole time, his face wasn't half covered and filthy with blood like Ava's had been. But the sight of him dead while taking a shower was tragic enough. And just then they heard Natsuhi's voice coming from the hall. She was probably coming in with Genshi. Again with this graffiti. What about this letter? What does it say inside? I don't know, I haven't read it. I like, you know what the best part of this is? They had the letter. They had the letter, and instead of getting someone to watch the door while they did this, they had the letter, and they didn't even bother reading it. If it fucking said they were gonna die, that's so funny. I don't know, I haven't read it yet. We shouldn't touch it carelessly. The culprit's fingerprints might still be on it. We should hand it over to the police. Alright, dude. They went out of their way to leave it here. I'm sure they wouldn't have left fingerprints. As Nazi said that she picked up the envelope. And before checking its contents, she entered the room herself where she found Ava dead. Well, goodbye. Hideyoshi is here too. This is truly atrocious. Cannon, turn off the shower. Don't let this be more pitiful than it needs to be. Yes, ma'am. Cannon gripped his handkerchief and twisted the valve, turning off the shower. It's not midnight yet, so that's interesting. She's killing people faster than I was predicting. In the bathtub, a small jar of body soap had fallen with its cap off. It really looked like he'd been attacked while taking a shower. There was still a small splash of blood clinging to the white bathtub, and the combination of white and red made a horrible contrast. Dr. Nanjo. I understand. No signs of post-mortem lividity. Rigor mortis hasn't begun. An hour or so has passed since they were killed. So he can tell if they died in the last 5 minutes. Still, how a weapon with such a short handle could do that to the skull? I can't imagine. Nanjo checked their pulse and their pupils, making certain of their deaths once more. As Cannon watched this business-like treatment, he thought, couldn't you tell at a glance they're dead without doing that? Yeah, and? Nanjo thought about removing the weapon, but then decided it's better to preserve the scene and handed it over to the police, so he left it alone. A close inspection of the base showed it didn't have a blade. In fact, it was more conical than blade-shaped. He noticed that rather than a knife, it's more like a short-handled spear. Something with that shape is better suited for thrusting than slicing. Rather than a short spear, you might call it a thick ice pick. At any rate, after looking at this scene, no further words were needed to describe what sort of terrible purpose such eerily designed weapons were originally made for. Nor was it necessary to explain how they carried out their function. Nazi, hoping to escape the repulsive steam filling the bathroom as soon as she could, covered her mouth with a handkerchief and dashed from the room. Alright. Just viewing their bodies for an instant had been enough to burn the image into her eyes. If she looked any longer, that image would surely remain in her vision for all eternity. The rising urge to vomit was the same feeling she had that morning at the gardening storehouse. And for a while, Natsuki couldn't help but stand with her back facing the guest room, fighting that sickness in her stomach. At any rate, we can't let the children... Can't let George see this room. Seal the room with all haste. George saw his parents in this brutal state. But they could tell that those fiercely racing footsteps in the hallway belonged to George even before he came dashing to the room. George and the other children had been waiting in the parlor, however, when they saw Genji speak to Natsuki. When they saw her turn pale and fly out the parlor, they felt a sense of foreboding. When they saw a group of large people gathered around the guest room, they were sure of it. More bodies, baby! Father, why are you even running in there? You should know he's dead, dude. You should know he's dead. I don't know why you're yelling like it's gonna make a difference. Father, mother. What's this? Another magic circle? Oh, interesting. Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi are safe, right? Now they're gone. Hey, Cannon. What's this about? Butler-sama? Cannon didn't have to say anything. George's scream after he ran into the room told them everything they needed to know. Alright. Who did this? I'll kill you. George. Hang in there. Nazi touched George's shoulder with her hand, but he violently shook her off. He fell over beside Eva and buried his face in the bed in front of his mother's face, wailing. Then he pounded on the bed with his fist over and over again. George? George-san? Hang in there. Also, I can hear the wind. Is the window open? I'm curious. Battler? Battler-sama? Battler had his back against the wall of the hallway and was covering his eyes with his right hand and weeping without restraint. Horrible. That's horrible. He proposed to the girl he loved and lost her the next day, and on the same day, his parents were both killed. Isn't that too harsh? Sorry, like, that's what the prophecy said. I mean, I figured it out. It took me, what, like, 2 seconds? It says right here, 6 chosen. Second twilight, those who remain shall tear apart the 2 who are close. The 2 who are close were only 2 people by themselves, and they were the only couple left alive. That was so easy. I don't know what to tell you, dude. That was the most predictable death we've seen, and they haven't figured it out yet. They have this information in universe, so I don't know what their excuse is. They should have expected that any 2 people by themselves who were close, especially in close relationships, would be targets, but they didn't bother warning them. Of course, it's sad when anyone dies, no matter who it is. To be fair, the epitaph has been up for 2 years. There were no ritual murders then. Yeah, but like, it says the two who are, like, it says you can predict the deaths of those two when they try to leave, and you're like, aren't they just gonna die? But everyone's acting surprised. Like, Maria figured out that it was Beatrice, and she's been screaming Beatrice. Even if you assume Beatrice isn't real, you should assume that they're trying to reenact Beatrice's murders. Or Beatrice's ritual thing. It's been on the table the whole time. I would immediately be like, okay, then 2 people are probably going to be killed tonight. Once the 6 people die, like 6 is a significant number, and it's a weird choice of people to kill, so it stands out, especially because before people died, they were talking about whether Beatrice is real or not, and whether or not to do the puzzle, but no one's looked at it yet. Like, I don't know why anyone's surprised at this point. If it, okay, like, I guess some people who are in denial could be surprised, but I feel like most people should be like, ah, they're doing the Beatrice ritual murders that are sacrifices. Okay, so we know that 2 people are probably going to get murdered, or there's going to be an attempt on 2 people's lives, and if we can keep 1 person alive, we'll have broken their charm. It's kind of annoying, but... So, if by the 3rd night they're still shocked and not thinking Beatrice, I'm just going to say they're stupid. This one, I guess a couple of people could be in denial, but I think a double murder so soon after mass killing should be really easy to predict. You should immediately be like, oh, okay, this guy's clear. Like, the amount of talking about Beatrice that's been done with nobody thinking that the person who killed 6 people is referring to the 6 sacrifices in the letter is absurd, considering they've reiterated the ritual and even the letters reiterated the root. Like, it's ridiculous that nobody's thought of that yet. Or anyone's surprised at all when these 2 run off by themselves, are the only living couple, and then die. Like, okay. Also ironic horror scene. They have a moment together and then they get murdered for having a moment together. Biggest red flag ever. Alright. Of course it's sad whenever anyone dies, no matter who it is, but to Battler, those who are left alone by the deaths of others are far more worthy of pity. Everyone here now lost someone close to them. George wasn't the only one to be pitied, however, George's pain was greater than everyone else's. I know everyone dies sooner or later. If you're human, you'll eventually reach the time where you're gonna fight the sorrow of losing someone close to you. Shouldn't that day be far in the future for Aniki? Shouldn't those deaths visit him one at a time? Horrible. Horrible. That bastard. That bastard. Does he have a speck of sympathy in him? Battler, don't cry, don't cry. Maria tried to comfort Battler in a mechanical sounding voice. Battler violently wiped his tears. Yeah. Damn it, I won't cry anymore. Press X to doubt. Tears of regret, sadness, or sadness. I won't shed them again. Alright. It's all useless. The witch has got me backed into a corner. I'm always on the defensive. And it's useless. Useless. But the good news is we've removed one of the obstacles to actually investigating the witch's thing and finding the treasure, right? I'll spin the board around. He that bastard. He probably thinks we'll be running scared like sheep until tomorrow before we try anything. But guess what? I'm gonna spin it around. That bastard. Can't escape this island until tomorrow either. We won't be hiding away, pissing ourselves. That bastard will. Wait, why is he talking about that bastard when he... Well, I guess he doesn't have enough information. I don't know why I asked that. When he finds out that it was an actual locked room they were in that they got murdered, and that can only be locked on the inside, he might be a little bit more sympathetic to the magic solution. As per his request, an impossible kill. I'll expose you, you'll see. by tomorrow.
いや、明日なんかまたね。
Screw tomorrow tonight? Alright.
そんな枕を掴み上げてやる。
Before tonight's over, I'll be gripping you by the collar. My only complaint on how they executed this is I don't think Cannon should have opened it immediately.
この部屋は警察
I
が
think
来る
Cannon
ま
should
で
have...
このままにして施錠します。
There are devices to unlock a door from the outside without a key. Correct, that's why it has those chains. That's why they use the chain. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, Japanese. I didn't check that. The Japanese wouldn't be gendered, yeah. The Japanese isn't gendered. I didn't actually pay attention to the dialogue he was saying. You're absolutely right. I'm thinking, I think the only way they handled this poorly was they can accuse Kanon and Genji of killing him now. Killing them both now. Thankfully, the person who thought the threat was from within is dead now. So they might be able to get somewhere. There might be a way to undo and redo a chain thing about it. It's very difficult to do so. If you have a chain on your door, you can try it. It's very difficult. It's very difficult, as the placement of the chain is typically... the placement of where the chain is anchored is typically at a point that's like impossible for you to reach. Or open the door far enough for it to be doable. Like, it is possible. There are ways, but it's almost impossible. There's nothing there's nothing someone wishing to do malice can't learn, streamer. It's true. But like, the odds of doing it are very, very low. It's locking, it's very hard. You want to try it, but you don't want to lock yourself out of your house? You'll try it when you have guests. Yeah, give it a go. I've tried it. It's really hard. As typically you have to like, especially on like the decent ones, you have to like push it out and up or down, right? And then pull out at a specific angle that's like middling height. You need like some really high precision, and it's beyond the reach of your fingers. Because usually you can't get your like whole arm through the door to unlock it, right? That's the point of the chain, is that you can't get your whole arm through it. If you can get your whole arm in, you could like reach around and grab it. But usually the chain is taught far before that. If you're exceptionally skinny, you might be able to try it, but if you're like built, it's going to be super hard. At any rate, they're going to leave everything as usual until the police come. All right. No objections? Natsuhi announced it as though she didn't care whether they agreed or not. If anyone had a right to object, it would have been George, but he looked as though he'd shed enough tears. He nodded, still facing away from the others. That being said, they should be... Yeah, it's absurdly it's incredibly improbable that someone unlocked it. Like, it's like at the point where you should just assume that it wasn't unlocked and that they came in some other way. Because they have to lock it on the way. They have to lock it while they're going out too, right? Like they have to unlock it and then lock it again. That's very difficult to do. Yeah, either a person from the outside. Yeah, it's more likely like a window is used or some bullshit. Could have gone through the windows too. Yeah, the windows seem more likely than anything else. Didn't hear wire drop. Characters updated? Might have already been updated. George nodded, facing away from the others, and when he stood up, everyone else agreed. Alright. Natsuhi hadn't opened that western envelope of the family head that she'd picked up, but now that they'd decided to leave the room, she decided to unseal it in the parlor where everyone could watch. As soon as they walked... I think it played earlier. Let's see. Nope, it hasn't played yet. They're still alive. For now. Oh, rip those plates. As soon as they walked into the hallway to head back to the parlor, some of them immediately felt something out of place or sensed something strange. Thanks? Did you notice it too, Maria? Seriously, what's that smell? It's awful. When everyone sniffed the air, they did notice a horrible burnt smell drifting through the hallway, one that none of them smelled until then.
私ちょっと厨房を見てきます。
Oh, quickly go check the kitchen. Are we gonna find the burnt corpse of what's his face? The old man?
火はちゃんと消したはずなんですよ。
I'm sure I turned the flame off. After noticing a burnt smell, it was natural Kumasawa, who had been using the burner, suspected her own slip-up had caused it. She hastily danced away.
カノン、熊沢と行きなさい。
Cannon, go with
一
Kumasawa.
人にさせない
Do not let her be alone.
はい。
Yes. After nodding at Genji's order, Cannon followed after her. He wasn't running, but as he followed her, he tried to search for the cause of the smell in other directions as well. Ugh, stinks. Could be sulfur.
これは確か
Truly
に
is the stench that makes the nose wrinkle.
鼻が曲がりそうな匂いですね。
We have to wait for the water drop, though.
しかし、換気のために窓を
Doesn't
開け
mean
てもい
we
い
can
の
open a
か
window for ventilation. Natsuki was reluctant to open the windows in a situation where self-defense was so important.
換気扇を回させましょう。
Let's run the fans.
窓を開ける必要はないと思います。
I don't believe there will be a need to open the windows.
ジョージの兄貴、
George Anakin.
話しかけても大丈夫かよ。
Did I miss the water droplet? No, I didn't. They're not dead here. You can see wait, oh, they are dead. Doi. She's right here. Doi. I'm blind. I'm blind. Oh my goodness. I missed that. Oh. I just saw the red and was like, up, red here. Seems good. Okay. Ushiramiya Eva. Found on the bed of a guest room inside the mansion with a weapon resembling an ice pick sticking out of her forehead. I swear I have eyes, guys. I swear. Okay, found in the bathroom of the same guest room Eva was found in. Like Eva, there was a weapon resembling an ice pick sticking out of his forehead. You can't see either of them by looking through the gap of the door while the chain is set. You can't see them, so you can't reach them. Hey, how could a human possibly kill them? Alright. Interesting. I'm actually just a dumbass and scanned over them. I saw like these and was like, oh, well, people are dead. Interesting how some of them light up sometimes. The ice picks could be like short-range crossbow bolts? Maybe. George Anarchy, is it okay if I talk to you? If it's about the culprit, I have no problems. It seemed George managed to climb out of the abyss of sorrow. All that filled his chest was a quiet flame of hatred towards the culprit who stole the lives of the one he loved and his parents. The chain for this room was set. What I could tell by looking at it, I'm positive it couldn't be opened from the outside. In other words, a perfect closed room. It seems to be the case. In the case of the Rose Garden storehouse, they might have sneaked the shutter key out of the servant room. Or maybe a duplicate key. I can imagine the many ways they would have done it. The chain is different. Among generally used locking techniques, the chain is the simplest one to create a closed room with.
チェーンだけは物理的に破壊しない限り外からはどうにもならないぜ。
Only a chain will block everyone from coming outside as long as it isn't physically broken.
じゃあつまり犯人は扉からは出
Does
入り
this
しな
mean
か
the
ったって
culprit
こと
couldn't
な
have
の？
gone in or out through the door?
こりゃ面白いや。つい数時間ほど前にも扉以外でどうやって部屋から出入りしたのかって
Very interesting. Just a few hours
みんなで騒いだ
ago,
気がするぜ。
I seem to remember everyone making a fuss over how to enter a room without using the door. Back then, we were losing our cool wondering how grandfather disappeared from his room. The receipt Aunt Eva stuck in the door on a whim proved the door remained sealed. And since Aunt Natsuhi was the one to enter or exit during the time, she was under suspicion. Eva proposed a theory about how Aunt Natsuhi might have thrown grandfather out the window and left by the door herself. This door is much simpler. It was sealed from the inside by the door chain. The window had been locked from the inside and the bodies had been inside the room. This time it really had been, without exaggeration, a true closed room. That's right. If you include grandfather's disappearance, 3 cases have occurred, and all 3 times the door has been the point of interest. The first was the shutter. There was a key in the servant room, and if we assume someone knew about that, it can't be called a closed room. The next was the door sealed by receipt. However, Aunt Natsuki entered the room, so if grandfather had left through the window or been thrown out, she would have been able to lock the window before escaping. Or like my theory, grandfather could have hidden until the receipt was gone and left the room later. Basically, this door can be defeated with a handful of desperate tricks. In that sense, you can't really call this one a closed room either. This one, though, quite interesting. Now we have the door sealed with the door chain. Finally, we have to give up. The door, window, everything was locked. It was perfect, a perfect closed room. The first hadn't been a closed... Nobody checked under the fucking... Did anyone check under the fucking beds this time? Because I didn't fucking see anyone checking under the beds. I'm just saying, if there's a murderer, nobody checked under the fucking beds. That said, if we check... let's see. Hold up. I'm gonna go to the system again. Here we go. Okay. Doctor... Natsuhi, Jessica, George, Battler, Maria, Kumasawa, and Cannon, and Genshi were all outside of the room. Just pointing that out. Every single one of them was outside the room, so you have to conclude... If you have to conclude that there's a 19th person doing the killing here, right? If you want to assume the killer is in the room and that it's a physical person and the room hasn't been exited, then it is locked like that. But the blood paint stuff appeared, so you're leaning on supernatural because they couldn't have left the room. Okay, if there was no marks on the door, I would say person did it. They might be hiding under the bed. Room still sealed. Yeah. However, everyone here is present. I have no clue how they got into the room in the first place, and there were markings on the door that appeared afterwards, meaning someone outside the room is interacting with it. Or interacting with the door from the outside. Interesting. First wasn't a closed room because everyone could be suspected. The second was because Aunt Natsuhi could be suspected. But this one time, no one could be suspected. It was the perfect closed room because the door chain formed a seal that blocked everyone equally well. In that case, did the culprit carry out the crime without entering the room? With a method from outside the room? Good point. Yeah, that's true. Even though the chain makes it impossible to open wide enough for a person to fit through, you can open it a small crack. She's thinking that way. I'm thinking traps in the walls. A trap or device in the wall that fires bolts that kills people. That's possible. They didn't check the ceiling. They didn't check the ceiling or like anywhere else. Although it'd be really hard to check for like hidden places for like projectiles to fire from. You have to check the walls and ceiling thoroughly. Did the culprit? No, that doesn't work this year. Am I missing something? Yeah, you are. If Ava's body was next to the door, it might be possible. She's on the bed at the back of the room. Hideyoshi's even in the bathroom. Looking from the crack in the door, you couldn't even see them and you couldn't reach them with your hands either. Oh, you're almost done the entire game? You're actually on 7 and you're finishing up 8 next week? Interesting. I wonder how this one was done if you're gonna kill someone. I mean, you could probably like open the door, use a mirror, and fire like a projectile weapon to kill them both if you're like really accurate. And have time because she's lying down and he's in the shower. That's a possibility. There's a few possibilities for this to be physical, but it seems unlikely. And the only reason I'm claiming that it's supernatural is because the previous title had supernatural stuff in it, so this one could have that. Alright, you couldn't reach them with your hands either? Useless. I don't have a clue. Something was tugging softly at my sleeve. It was Maria. Satisfied? What do you mean satisfied?
バトラは親族の誰かを疑うのが嫌だから犯人はベアトリーチェであってほしいと願ったよ。
Battler, since you didn't want to suspect any of your relatives, you made a wish saying you wanted the culprit to be Beatrice, right?
だからベアトリーチェは叶えた。
Well, Beatrice granted the wish.
バトラが言った通り、絶対に人間には無理なことをして、
As you asked, she
バ
did
トラに
something.
魔女の存在を信じさせてくれた。
She did something completely impossible for a human to make you believe in the witch. It is possible to open that door with a Would it be possible to open those door chains with a magnet? I don't know if they're made of magnetic metal, non-magnetic metal, but could you not use a magnet to open that? Theoretically, depending on its design. A strong magnet through the door to unlock it. Strong magnet to lock it again. Seems possible, right? You could do any pattern with the magnet too, right? It wouldn't matter if it was like the most absurd labyrinthine thing. As long as it was linear, you could do it with a magnet. Well, that's a thought. A magnet to open the door. Yeah, I'm just putting that out there. Magnets, theoretically possible, maybe, if it's if the end is magnetic.
なのにわがまま。
And now you complain? Selfish. I tapped Maria, who was laughing unpleasantly on the head with my fist.
ああ、叶えてくれてありがとうよ。
Thanks for granting that
今
wish.
のはその礼と、不謹慎な時に笑ったことへの教育的指導だ。
And that just now is to thank you, and also to teach you to stop laughing when it's inappropriate.
それより教えやがれ。
Most importantly, tell me,
エヴァおばさんたちの部屋の扉にも、また
there was
怪し
another
げな落書
mysterious
きがさ
scribble
れ
on
て
the
いた。
door to the room.
あれもまた魔法陣なのか。
Was that another magic circle?
あれは特に覚えやすい特徴的な形なんだから、あのくらい知っててほしいね。
That one had a memorable and characteristic design. I'd hoped you'd at least know what it was.
知らねえから花を持たせてやってんだ。
I don't know, which is why I'm letting you take the
ご
credit.
ちゃごちゃ言わねえで解説しろい。
Quit whining and explain.
バトラは暴力的だね。
You sure are violent, Ben.
あんまり意地悪すると教えない
I
よ。
won't tell you. You're too mean. Get it?
あいた。
Bonk. Bonk.
言うよこのげんこつ男。
I'll say it. Stop hitting me.
あれは月の一の魔法陣だよ。
That's the first magic circle of the moon.
何の意味がある。
So first we did peel to the sun, next is the first moon. Okay.
その魔
What's
法
it
陣
mean?
のご利益は。
What's the circle's
書かれ
effect?
てるヘブライ語の意味は。
What does the writing mean?
記されているのは旧約聖書詩編第107
The
編の
words are from the
16
Old
節。
Testament, Psalms 107, verse
主
16.
は聖堂の扉を破り鉄の管抜きを打ち破ってくださいました。
For he has broken gates of brass and cuts through bars of
魔
iron.
法陣の効用は2つ。
It has two
一
effects.
つはいかなる方法によって閉ざされた扉でも開くことができる。
First, it opens a door, regardless of which method was used to lock it.
そりゃ便利な魔法だぜ。
Convenient.
つまり魔法の力に頼らなきゃ開けぬ密室の扉っていう魔女様のアピールってわけか。
You don't like Rosa hitting Maria, but you're not going to blame Battler at all for hitting her for being a creep after a bunch of people died, including her own mother, yes. And random people who she probably didn't hate. Convenient. You're trying to make it look like they're a witch. They're trying to make it look like they're a witch because this closed door room has a door that can't be opened without relying on magic.
もう一つの効用は。
And the other effect?
開かぬ扉を八方塞がりの事態に見立て扉を開く。
If you're blocked by unopenable doors in all directions, it opens the
難
door.
解な事態の時に用いることでそれまで思いつきもしなかった解決
By
策を
using
与
it in a
えてくれ
difficult
るんだよ。
situation, it gives you a solution you hadn't thought of until
平
then.
たく言うと観察力や洞察力ひらめきや直感を授けてくれるんだね。
Generally speaking, you receive the powers of observation, discernment, inspiration, and intuition.
ベアトリーチェはバトラごとき人間風情に この扉の開き方がわかるものかって挑発してるんだよ。
Beatrice is trying to provoke you since there's no way lowly humans like Battler could figure out how the door was opened. Bonk. Just keep hitting her, bonk.
よーし、もう黙れご苦労。
Alright, good work, shut up.
上等だぜ。その魔女の挑戦。
Sounds great, I accept this challenge from the witch.
マリアちゃん、
Maria.
この世に魔女も悪魔も存在しない。
Things like witches and demons don't
父
exist
さ
in
んと
this
母さ
world.
んは誰かが殺した。
Someone killed father and
それ
mother.
が僕のよく知る人間なのか、
I don't know
知
whether
ら
I
ない
know
人
them or
間な
not.
のかはわからない。でも、そのどちらであっても
Either way, it was
必
definitely a
ず
human.
人間なんだ。
At least we know it's a 19th person based on process of elimination and the fact that nobody was absent at the time. Everyone's going in pairs, nobody's allowed by themselves, and they were still killed, which means either two people are the murderers, either we have two people who are the murderers, or it's a 19th person, so there should be at least be proof that there's another person, maybe?
しかし
Yeah, but how?
どうやってせいぜい10センチ程度しか開かない扉の隙間からどうやったら室内の2人を
How'd they reach the two through that crack in the door? It couldn't have been more than 10 centimeters wide.
それにしても耐え難い匂いです。
At any rate, I can hardly stand this stench. They're down on another floor. What in the
一体
world
何
could it
事なの
be?
ですか？
Cannon and Kumasawa, who'd gone on ahead, realized the smell wasn't coming from the kitchen before they arrived there. It was because they noticed a thicker wave of stench rising from the stairs leading to the basement, which they passed on their way to the kitchen. Has nobody explored the basement? We haven't been there yet.
ボイラー室。
The boiler room.
またボイラーの
So I'm
調子は
predicting
悪いです
the old man's burning, right? I'm predicting dead old man, burnt to a crisp. We'll find out. I wonder if there's something wrong with the boiler again. The stairs led to the underground boiler room. The mansion's boiler was old and in poor condition. Both of them had witnessed problems with the boiler on several occasions, but they never smelled the boiler belching out a stench like this. Slam.
今の音は
The thing they heard from the basement was definitely the sound of a door closing. Kumasawa had phrased it as a question, but she already knew it couldn't be anything else. Kumasawa was so surprised her knees gave way yet again and she oh my god, fuck off. She cowered. At that very moment, no one could have been in the boiler room. A few seconds ago, everyone had been crowded together around Eva and Hideyoshi's room. Who caused the sound of a door closing now?
カノンさん
Cannon. After taking a second to sort the situation, Cannon ran down toward the basement. Since they'd heard the sound of a door closing just now, there was no sign of anyone upstairs. The person who closed it had to be inside the boiler room now. If it had been a dead end, Cannon wouldn't have rushed in so hastily, but Cannon was a servant, so he knew. There were two entrances to the boiler room, one that opened to the mansion and one that opened to the courtyard. If he didn't chase them now, they might slip away. And Kumasawa is just like, my heart! The smart thing to do would be go to the other entrance again. Kumasawa reached the same conclusion long after Cannon, but she couldn't let him go alone. If the thing in the boiler room was the culprit, an opponent who had easily killed 6 adults in the first murder, no matter how Cannon confronted them, he wouldn't be a match. Of course, with this argument, even if Kumasawa joined him, it wouldn't change anything. But after a late, she decided she mustn't let Cannon go alone, and she rushed down the stairs. Damn, I would have gone to the courtyard entrance. Alright, boiler room. At that time, Cannon was already in the boiler room. The room's characteristic damp heat tormented him. It had always been unpleasantly smelly in a hot place, and on top of that, the room was full of that horrible stench which made him feel like he was going to be sick. There was no doubt this room was the source. In that case, Cannon should have been searching for where the smell was coming from. However, he kept gazing straight as he grabbed a hatchet from the tool shelf just off to the side of the door. He hadn't stretched out his hand because he wanted a hatchet. He'd wanted to grab a weapon, any weapon. Why? He gazed into the darkness where the naked light bulb couldn't pierce, and then he answered.
ルーレットは数字と赤黒にかけて配当を競い合う。
In roulette, you bet on a number of the colors red or black, vying for a payoff.
だが赤か黒かのようなリスクの低い賭けは
Low
その
risk
程
bets
度の
like
配当
black
し
and
か
red
与えられない。
only offer a similarly low payoff. Words coming from his mouth were swallowed by the darkness. The darkness started to swirl, glittering. It was such a fantastical scene. Golden sparkling butterflies that hid in the shadows all over the boiler room flapped their wings, twinkling beautifully, and gathered in the darkness, disappearing. Cannon continued speaking, directing his words at the darkness as it swallowed the butterflies. But as they gathered in the darkness, they, perhaps probably, no, certainly would laugh. Kumasawa, being the useless hag she is, instead of going to the courtyard exit, she runs down the stairs after him to do absolutely nothing. She's slow. She should go to the other entrance that she can catch the person, or at least catch a glimpse of him if Cannon's too slow, as Cannon's trying to engage them here. But too bad. Cannon continued to speak without faltering in the slightest.
逆に、より的中率の低いかけ方をすれば、
However, if you bet on
その
something
リ
with
ス
a
ク
low
に比例した
probability,
配当が与えられる。
your payoff increases proportional to the
親
risk.
方様は、天文学的なリスクを的中できることを
The
奇跡と
master,
呼び、
master called succeeding despite an astronomical risk a
その
miracle.
結果得られる天文学的な配当を魔法と呼んでいた。
Called the astronomical payoff gained as a result magic.
親方様とお前がどんな魔法を求めてルーレットに挑んでいるのか、そんなことには興味ない。
I have no interest in what kind of magic you and the master were seeking when you spun that
しか
roulette.
し、
But you forgot
ルー
something.
レットには赤でも黒でもない目が出うることを。
You forgot that in roulette there's a
忘れていた。
pocket that's neither black nor red. Roulette has a special pocket called Zero, which means the house takes everything in certain variants of the game. It means all the coins bet on the table are swept up as though everyone has forfeit.
僕は一つだけ心に決
I
めてい
set
た。
my heart on one thing.
もし
I decided that
シャノンが殺されて僕が生き残るようなことがあったなら、
if Shannon were to be killed and I was
この
left
身を投
alive,
げ出してお前のルーレットをすべて台無しにしてやろうと。
I'd sacrifice this life of mine and bring this roulette of yours to ruin. Okay.
これは親方様が決めたルールでも、ましてや
This isn't Master's rules.
お前が決め
And
た
this
ルールで
certainly
もない。
isn't one of yours.
このルールは僕が作っ
I
た。
made it myself. Alright.
僕はもう家具じゃない。
I'm not furniture anymore. Alright. What's your plan,
お
Cannon?
前のルーレットのゼロなんだ。
I'll be the zero on your roulette. Cannon's face twisted with humiliation. It was clear his defiance against his own weakness was being ridiculed somehow. His brow creased further and a fierce expression he'd never shown to anyone appeared on his face. The hand grasping the hatchet was shaking. His sweat became drops which slid downwards. It was clear the emotion causing his hand to shake wasn't just anger, but he suppressed that emotion.
僕はもうお前の言葉に惑わされたりはしない。
I won't let your words lead me astray
悪魔
again.
のルーレットはこれでおしまいだ。
This is where the demon roulette ends.
地獄にてさらに1000年。次の召喚者を待つがいい。
Wait another 1,000 years in hell for your next
ベア
summoner.
ドリーチェ
Beatrice. Alright. When Cannon raised the hatchet and tried to dive into the darkness sneered. It sneered at the courage of who were vulgar, lazy, futile, and meaningless. I see. Cannon, his hatchet still held aloft, couldn't take another step after that. With a clang, the hatchet he'd been grasping fell and rolled on the floor. And following that with a pair of thuds, his knees hit left, then right. The hand that looked like he'd been trying to catch the sky now that the hatchet had been dropped gradually lowered, landing on his chest. Then the other hand did the same. Right there, a handle with a demon-shaped design was buried in his chest. The same type of weapon that had been stabbed into Eva and Hideyoshi's foreheads was in Cannon's chest. Well, I guess you shouldn't have goofed off. Cannon was curled up in anguish, fresh blood dribbling from the corner of his mouth. It was makeup too extreme for his white skin. Around this scene, the glittering butterflies danced through the darkness, mesmerizing. I missed that prediction. Shasta's 5th Twilight. I guess she kills everyone who doesn't worship Beatrice on the 3rd night? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They need 5 people. One, two, three, 4, 5. I guess we have like enough people left alive if he dies. Sure. Around this scene, the glittering gold butterflies danced through the darkness, mesmerizing. It was a beautiful, beautiful dance. A funeral march of tribute, ridicule, and contempt for a single boy's self-sacrifice. He had already been prepared for his own death. But although he could do nothing but accept the death he received, he attempted one last measure of resistance. He grasped the handle of the weapon, sticking into his chest with both hands, and gritting his teeth with an acute, unearthly pain, he pulled it out. Yeah, he was making claim that he would sabotage their plans. Alas, he not only hasn't shared what their plans were or that the gold's real, but he's also dying here and made some absurd claim like he'd be the 0 on their roulette wheel, which seems impossible, as the roulette is what? The gamble is what? That we find the gold or we don't find the gold? How do you... Can you destroy the gold without finding it? You'd have to just... That would be a didn't find the gold, wouldn't it? It seems like a binary option, find or not find gold. For a moment, a bright red spray gushed out. It made an unpleasant bloop sound, probably resembling the sound of Cannon's soul as it was sucked into the swamp of the dead.
Canon-san?
Kumasawa screamed at the incomprehensible sight in front of her. Cannon was lying in a pool of blood. Kumasawa's heart was a complete mess. And what a horrible fate. He wouldn't have been killed if I'd been with him. Yeah. And you know what would have been smarter? If he kept moving, instead of making himself a fucking target for 20 seconds. Like, if you thought that guy had a loaded crossbow or something to kill them and it wasn't literal magic, standing stock still waiting to be shot by the same fucking crossbow that killed 2 other people is a terrible idea. The option he wanted to go over was kill Beatrice, but it didn't work out. He didn't even take a swing at her, so he's fucked. Like, come on. I don't even know what he was trying to accomplish there. He runs down to confront someone, so either another person or Beatrice, rants at them, and then dies because he didn't do anything. He stood in the light while he was surrounded by shadow, didn't look for them, didn't chase after them, didn't try to ambush them at the exit point to the fucking place. He just let himself get killed. Like, I don't feel bad for Cannon. Goodbye. That was a terrible idea. What incredible luck. If I'd been with him, I might have been killed too. As she screamed, her expression was filled with complete confusion, and all the muscles of her face were pulled up almost as though she was smiling while crying. But no one could have made fun of an expression like this. Is it Kumasawa? The first to dash in was Natsuhi, holding a rifle. Battler and Genji dashed in after her. Normally they would have started discussing the origin of the violent stench filling the boiler room, but after they saw Cannon lying on the ground as if he were drowning in an ocean of his own blood, the stench wasn't important anymore. Cannon, answer me. Bring the doctor here. Natsuhi realized even though Cannon was on the verge of death, he was still conscious, so she sent Genji to get the doctor. Natsuhi, holding the rifle, faced the darkness in the center of the room and shouted, "Who's hiding there? Come out quietly. If you don't come out, I'll shoot without mercy." We need light. And Natsuhi, let's light him up. Battler, thinking quickly, took a large flashlight from the tool shelf alongside the door and used its light to cut through the darkness Natsuhi was glaring into. It's a good thing nobody decided to go to the other side, otherwise if a real person was here, they couldn't have gotten away. The light only shone on mechanical-looking piping and a door. The door had been left open a crack, but it was obvious someone left through there in a hurry. Natsuhi, where's that door go? Where's that door lead to?
中庭です。
The courtyard. Well, there we go. That's how they got outside the building. Alright. So now we know how to get outside the building without using the keys. At least that's handy. I knew there'd be a secret passage or a way outside the building. Okay. So you can get outside the building via the boiler room. Good to know. Like how to get you in. Battler let out a war cry as he slammed into the door. Cool air from outside rushed in. There was some thin, rough stairs leading up. Battler ran up, shouting. Wait, Battler? It's dangerous alone? Nazi rushed up the stairs after Battler. They were in the courtyard. The courtyard of the mansion, built strictly for lighting purposes, so it wasn't an elegant place. It was surrounded on all sides. The air was calm and undisturbed, even though they could hear the sound of the strong winds. There was only gentle, sorrowful rain. As he ran through the cold, scattered raindrops, dashing up the stairs into the courtyard, Battler looked in every direction, and of course, the odds of him finding even a suspicious silhouette just standing around nonchalantly were pretty much zero. He spun, looking all around. He turned again and again. He kept spinning until he lost his sense of direction. He prayed that he would see the culprit in this scenery, but there was no chance. All he saw as he spun were more and more of the mansion's heartless walls and windows. Furthermore, there were two entrances to the mansion from the courtyard, and neither were locked. Wait, why were they not locked? Don't we lock all the doors? Why would we unlock the doors when we're under siege? Because the courtyard couldn't be entered from outside the mansion, the doors had been built without locks. Oh, okay. Oh, we're a courtyard. Oh, we're a courtyard inside the mansion. Okay. He didn't know which they had left through. He had to give up. He pounded the wall with his fists, swearing. Battler came. Don't run ahead by yourself. No good. Battler. He pressed his forehead against the wall, which he scratched at with his fingernails as he cried. Damn it. Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi. And now Cannon too. Killed the full 6 people. And that wasn't enough. You needed 3 more? Are you kidding me? You fucking kidding me? Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi were always kind and fun. Ava and kind. I don't think Aunt Ava and kind even go in the same sentence together. Unless you're saying Aunt Ava is not kind. This guy's like drunk. But alright. They're kind and fun. I just met Cannon yesterday. I'm sure I would have gotten fine with him. Along fine with him. I killed him. Why? Why? You know people die when they're killed, right? They don't come back? Yeah. Wait, he actually said that. He says when people die, they don't come back to life again, right? They aren't gonna quickly sprout up again like bamboo shoots? People die when they're killed, guys. Why'd you kill him? Why? Pain Pecco. Battler was a boy who could understand the feelings of pain and regret in a person's heart, so he cried with all his strength. Natsuki, who always thought a Battler as a frank person, was a bit surprised to find he had this delicate side. At the same time, she understood how easily the heart of a young person could be, so she held him. It's alright. I'll protect you, George, Maria, and Jessica. As the mother and representative of the Yoshiromiya family. Battler, after sobbing into Natsuki's chest for a while, wiped his tears with a bitter smile as though he'd been like that the whole time and tried to appear as though he'd cried more than enough already.
とにかく一度下に戻りましょう。
Let's go back down for
犯
now.
人を探すより自分たちの身を守る方が最優先です。
Protecting ourselves is a higher priority
明
than
日
the
になれ
culprit.
ば船が来る。
Tomorrow, the boat will arrive.
そうすれば警察がやってきて全てを白日
And
の
after
下
that,
に
the
さら
police
し出
will
して
come
くれ
and
るでしょう。
everything will be brought to light.
犯人がどうあがこうともこの島から逃げられるものです
There's no way they can escape this island, no matter how much they struggle. Right.
警察さ
When the police come. When the seagulls cry, the crime will be solved. But for some reason, Battler felt a sense of uneasiness as if the seagulls would never cry again. That couldn't be true. When the typhoon passes, surely the lively seagulls will return to the harbor again. Rudolph lost money due to the stock market. No, you're thinking of Kraus. I returned to the boiler room with Aunt Natsuhi and told everyone weekly we hadn't found anything. We heard the doctor and George had carried Cannon to the servant room. The servant room had a first aid kit and a sink and could apparently function as a nurse's office. Kumasawa and Jessica had accompanied them. Stains from Cannon's blood remained on the floor, and judging by the large amount of blood lost and the ruthless shape of the weapon that had fallen carelessly to the ground, I figured the doctor's treatment would end in vain. It was doubtlessly the same type that had been in Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi's foreheads, but wait, isn't the design a little different? There seemed to be small differences in that part. Still, as far as the shape was concerned, the weapons are the same. Though it seemed brutal, we'd left the weapons stuck into them to preserve the crime scene, so this is the first time we have a perfect view of the entire weapon. It's fun how the cicadas are a big part of Higurashi, but in Umineko, this theme is the absence of them. Yeah, there aren't any. As expected, the weapon was not bladed like a knife, but shaped like an ice pick, or rather a thin stake, and it had a spiral-shaped pattern like a drill. It looked like something that might be driven into the hearts of human sacrifices in a demonic ritual, including the handle. It was 25 centimeters long. Half of that was the stake-shaped part, stained with deep red blood. So it's just shy of a foot long. Okay. The length of the blood-stained part made it clear just how deeply it must have penetrated into Cannon-kun's chest. Aunt Natsuhi and the rest didn't even look at the weapon and instead stood in front of the incinerator where the horrible stench was emanating from. They must have dragged out that thing which was burning in the furnace. It was still smoldering, sending out dense waves of that unpleasantly awful smell. Genji and Maria stared down at it. Aunt Natsuhi probably couldn't stand to look directly at it. She kept shaking her head or back to it. I thought nothing could surprise me after everything had happened. Alright, you ready? But this is... I stood there for a while, moaning with a rising urge to vomit. The true source of that unearthly stench was a scorched corpse that had been cooking inside the incinerator. Whoa! Surprising nobody. It was a corpse in the incinerator. The clothes, the surface of the body, and the hair were all hideously burned. The grotesque corpse was in a state where not even the face or age or even the gender could be guessed at. But when I thought about it calmly, a corpse appearing at this time could only be one person. Grandfather, who disappeared that morning and whose whereabouts had been unknown.
おそらく親方様だと思います。
I believe it is most likely the master. I concur, Genji.
私も同感です。
I agree.
このようなお姿でお亡
He
く
would
なり
pass
にな
away
る
in such a state.
おいたわしい。
Heartrending.
でもこの死体
Is there
本当
any
にじい
proof
様だって保証はある
corpse
んですか
really is grandfather?
こうも黒焦げじゃ性別さえも想像つかないってのに
It's so black you can't even tell what gender it is.
バトラ君
Sadler the
足を
feet.
ご覧なさい。
Aunt Natsuhi, with her handkerchief over her mouth and her eyes averted, pointed and told me to look at the burnt corpse's feet.
両足の指が6本あるのがお分かりになりませんか
Notice how there are 6 toes on each foot.
本当だ
Right. Just as Genji had said, there were 6 toes on each foot. Each individual toe looked so normal in its line I hadn't noticed.
親方様はお生まれの時から両足の指がそれぞれ6本でし
Master
た。
was born with 6 toes on both
そ
feet.
して故に親方様は後ろ宮家の再興を託されたのです。
Consequently, the master was entrusted with the revival of the Ishiromiya family.
後ろ宮家には昔から生まれつき多子症の方が多かったそうです。
I heard since long ago cases of polydactyly were common in the Ashiromiya family.
遺伝的なものでしょう。
Probably hereditary. Polydactyly literally means many fingers because of that little mistake by God. When a person's born, one of their toes or fingers splits in two and the total number increases. A big deal isn't made of polydactyly in the world at large. That's because it isn't a disease, but something people are born with. Well, they're still babies. About the time they turn 1 year old, they can be taken to the hospital and given surgery to make them normal. Even a child with it can be treated before they become aware, so they might not even remember it themselves. By this way, it seems there's a possibility for this to occur in 1 out of every 2,000 babies. So even though it's not usually seen, it's not that rare at all. Speaking of which, I think Hideyoshi mentioned something to me a long time ago. Something about how even Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the man who unified Japan, at the end of Sengoku had 6 fingers on one hand. According to Aunt Natsuhi, among the many Ishiro family heads, one of the most praised for their wisdom all had... The ones most praised for wisdom all had polydactyly. Because of that, when grandfather was born, his relatives were excited at the thought he might become another wise leader. And when the leading relatives all died in the Kanto earthquake, it was apparently argued grandfather should be the one to restore the family because of the auspicious sign of his birth. Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Yeah, right. If grandfather hadn't disliked his position as head, his 6th toe probably would have been pretty lucky for him. Come to think of it, I heard about some country where it's believed polydactyl people should be treated as gods and revered. Besides the point. It's fairly common in mystery novels for a corpse to be burned to hide its identity, but I guess in this case, toasting him wouldn't be enough. And grandfather's body was not simply burnt. Just like Aunt and Uncle Hideyoshi, the thing had been stabbed into Cannon's chest. One of those demon ice picks was stuck into his forehead. The head's ring is not on his finger.
昨夜の手紙の通りということです。
So the letter last night spoke the truth.
お父様。
Father.
さぞやご無念でしょう。
Be horribly disappointed. Natsuhi let her head droop and closed her eyes tightly. Also, she never asked him about that, the ring on his finger being missing. She did speak to him, but she never asked him about the ring. I just realized that. Or maybe I think I realized it earlier, but I'm just bringing it up again because they said it. This room had become a vital crime scene for us to hand over to the police. It was decided we would leave the corpse here and lock the room, sealing it. It isn't clear when grandfather's corpse started burning in the incinerator, since according to Genji, the strength of the flames hadn't been that strong. The body must have started burning a while ago. That the stench could slowly creep out of the furnace and fill the room bit by bit, eventually pouring out and climbing the staircase. Putting aside whether he was rare or well done, definitely well done, grandfather had been brought out, killed, burned, even though he had started locked away in a closed room created by his auto-lock. There's probably no doubting this. However, according to Genji, the boiler room is usually locked. The possibility that someone outside our group had snuck in and committed the crime was overwhelmingly high. There was also a good chance this person was walking around with something like a master key. After all, the doors and windows throughout the mansion had been checked. Despite that, they were able to strut about the mansion freely. Does this confirm that a 19th person exists? Canons does. There's still that contradiction since they're trying to tout their existence without ever showing themselves. Along with Kiri's chessboard theory, I've been using this contradiction to deny the existence of a 19th person. By spinning the chessboard around once more, the very fact that the crime makes it perfectly obvious the 19th person exists means that the existence of the 19th person is less plausible. Okay, so I'm curious how they're going to justify it not being a 19th person. So we had everyone present. These guys ran down the stairs and past the boiler room, hearing the noise of someone already below them, despite the fact they were the first people of the 18 to leave the scene, and went directly for the stairs. Well, everyone was still with them? Seems weird. Okay. As long as that 19th person doesn't show themselves in front of us, if the culprit could get grandfather out through this door sealed by the receipt, if they could kill Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi from the other side of a door sealed by a chain, could they possibly go as far to create a fictional 19th person through strange tricks and devices? We're wasting so much time here. If we want to believe the culprits among the 18, then the list of suspects has grown short. 4 of us, Aunt Natsuhi, Genji, Kumasawa Bachan, Dr. Nanjo. One of those people has to be the culprit, but we can't be sure of that. A second ago we started doubting whether the corpse was actually grandfather's, right? Maybe we think of the other bodies the same way. For example, the first 6 had their faces smashed. Some of the bodies had kept enough of their faces for us to confirm who they were, but that old bastard, for example, lost his whole face as though the whole thing had been neatly peeled off. We only figured out which body was which by their clothes and surroundings. Did the culprit prepare a fake body beforehand and alter it to make it look like they died, even though they were actually hiding somewhere after committing the crime? It may sound ridiculous, but it isn't an impossible trick to pull off. I suppose so. That gives us a short list, though. Half his face is visible. Half his face is visible. Hers is not. His is not. His is sort of, and Shannon's is sort of. So you're basically saying, like, your parents could be the killers? Now, that is a good thought. Rudolph did say there's a chance he's going to be killed tonight, right? He did warn us there was a chance he gets killed tonight, which is a weird comment, right? Is Rudolph the guilty party here? Like, I asked that at the start when he died, and, like, he knew he was going to be killed somehow. But, like, I don't know if it's worth accusing him of being faking his own death. Too early to give in to this 19th person, this witch. Interesting. A couple interesting thoughts, but I think this is an appropriate place to take a break. We're probably not going to see any murders for a little bit. There's going to be a couple scenes before the next murder. We've had the latest and greatest hype. We'll have to continue our reading next time.